In any case, ladies and gentlemen, Northern Line mention. Um, yeah, that's what I got. That's all I got. Personal news wise, you were on all three networks: CNN, MS Now, and Fox News. As Trump threatens to blow up the entire country of Iran. That's pretty cool. Hamas 1,000 times better than Israel. Michigan race divides Democrats over Israel and party's future. El Sayed criticized for campaigning with streamer Hassan Piker. Senator Scott on feud with Yale over Hassan Piker. Yeah, when things are going really bad, really bad, just know that all of the networks will kick into overdrive their anti Hassan commentary and their comments. So that's exciting, you know. That's cool. I like that. That's another round, you know? Another Sunday of insane Hassan derangement syndrome. This is the longest I've seen any network cover anything without getting distracted. Isn't that cool? Isn't that wonderful that at least like finally we found a solution to the way that most networks can't focus on one issue for longer than like 20 hours, 24 hours in the news cycle. I'm glad that they are capable of taking, the real important stories of the day to its maximalist conclusion, focusing on the actual issues that matter, which is Twitch streamer that they can't decide is irrelevant or the most relevant, right? Anyway, do we have a blast off meme, folks? Do we have a blast off meme? I'm gonna need Obama to stand next to me and hype me up to put an end to this one as well. You know what I mean? I guess I could just use the screenshots. Okay. But all right, let's blast off and let's keep it going. Michigan Kamala, yeah, I know. I saw Mallory McMorrow's dance. I saw. Michigan, the Michigan Democratic Party is looking at their endorsements today. Visited my cousin this morning for breakfast. She's deep in MAGA County. Both their neighbors are taking down their Trump banners. I only saw one the whole time, the whole drive. Hell yeah, dude. I mean, it's great. Trump is seeing his lowest approval ratings ever. Let's blast off, obviously. Another Sunday round of insane assault, derangement syndrome, Iran x Trump, Hormuz status closed, situation monitored, Epstein's Fury, day 51, Sunday fun day. Okay, buddy, we'll talk about it all and more. Any chance of Julian Casablancas on the stream soon? Yes, maybe. I don't know. I don't know how to reach him, but we shall see. We shall see. Ladies and gentlemen, for the people that openly call themselves domestic terrorists, why am I just got started and I'm already yawning, bro. That's crazy. Am I overexerting myself? Be honest. You think I'm overexerting myself, chat? You think I should be taking the Sundays off? I just don't know what I would do with myself if I took the Sundays off. You know what I mean? No, you old? Yeah, that's true. Do we like the beard shave? Do we like it? Is that good? Back to my old form? Back to my old me? You know? Do we enjoy that, chat? Let me get a sound off. Is this better than the beard that was going crazy? The beard was definitely out of control. It was definitely a little bit out there. Quit complaining, dance for us. Yeah, now the beard's out. Now you got, you got slutty shirts. Slutty shirts are coming back. It's summer. It's summertime, It feels like summertime. Before you know it, we'll have sleeveless Sundays, right? Groom beer also looks good, but it has to be groomed. Okay. In any case, what is this? Capcom's Pragmata. Wait, did it come out already? Pragmata, it's making thousands of people suddenly want to start a family. You place Hugh as soldier stranded on a ruined lunar research station. His job is protecting the childlike android Diana while fighting rogue AI. It's out already? Is it good? Isn't this like Death Stranding? In one emotional moment, she gives him a crayon drawing of the two of them together as a little family. Even streamers who say at the start they didn't want kids end up breaking down happy in tears. So What's really interesting about this is all of these unfuckable losers in the gaming sphere always talk about like starting families and stuff. And I don't understand like why this has become a thing that they care about. Like, if you're a gamer, you should care about things that you actually experience. You should care about things that you actually enjoy, right? If you're a fucking lonely gamer who has never been around a woman and will never have sex with a woman, why do you care? Like, why do you care about having children or like riding for having children? Like, if they changed hot Cheetos, if they changed the recipe of hot Cheetos, if they changed the recipe of like, I don't know, Dr. Pepper or something, and you fucking freaked out about that, that makes sense, right? Like, that's precisely what your life is about. But as far as like LARPing about starting families and whatnot, this is something that I never understand. It just doesn't make any sense to me because it's just not something that you're going to experience ever for your life, for the rest of your life, right? Also, I will say, Japanese game, putting a child in there, you're playing with fire, okay? Don't get mad at me for saying this, but I feel like any Japanese game you put like a child, it's gonna invite maybe the worst possible fandom, you know? I know it's not like that. I'm sure the game is not like that, but there will be people who take it like that. So look up the Twitch emote controversy concerning this game. Where can people play this game? This pragmatic game? I'm so old. I'm literally, I'm behaving like such an old man. What platform is this game on? Is it on Steam? Is it a computer game? Is it one of those computer games? You know what? Why not? Why not? Let's fucking download it. Who knows? 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 Okay. You know what? Let's do it. Let's buy it. Let's fucking download it while we're streaming. Please play it. Holy fuck. Who knows, man? It's Sunday. It's Sunday. I'm a crazy guy. All right. I'm a crazy guy. I'm crazy like that. Just dropped a bando on the deluxe edition. Do not trust this man. Fuck news. Gaming all day. Okay, well, I wouldn't go that far. All right, calm down. Calm your tits. Okay, calm your jets. Calm your tits. We're just downloading it. We're gonna see. We're gonna see what it's like. We're gonna see what it's like. All right. You still owe us Metal Gear. All right, shut up. You constantly make fun of unfuckable losers, yet I can't find a single clip of you having sex. So prove me wrong and link the clip. Ooh woo. Ask your mom if you wanna. Maybe not see a clip, but if you want some rave reviews. Pragmata and the DNC enemy Hassan Piker is the best combo. Okay. Oh, yeah, I can play games on my Steam Deck again. Oh, shit, I forgot about gaming in general. It literally has been so out of my mind. So, you know, shout out to the chud-ass loser gamers for reminding me that this game came out. I'll take a look at it. I don't even know what it's about. I'll dive into it maybe in a little bit. So we shall see. We shall see. All right. Where do I begin? It's Sunday. It's not such a fun day. I will be honest with you, but at least some people are having fun. That's right. Trigger warning, millennial cringe. Okay, it's coming right at you. U.S. Senate candidate Mallory McMurrow is traversing the Michigan Democratic Party endorsement convention caucus meetings with a ban this afternoon. Bruh. This is Mamala. This is Pete Buttigieg. This is millennial cringe. This is peak faillennial cringe, okay? And let me tell you something, folks. A lot of you are going to look at this and go, this sucks. I feel like the Michigan Democratic Party is exactly the type of people who will look at this shit and go, that's me. That's so me. She speaks to me. Okay? Why do you hate fun? I truly feel like this is a lock. She has a lot more coveted endorsements from within the ranks of the party. The Warrenite branch. I would not be I would not be surprised if she gets it. Okay? I would not be surprised if she locks it down. I think Abdul obviously deserves it. I'm Mr. Endorser of Dr. Abdul El Sayed. But this is exactly the kind of shit that the Dems love. And this is the MDP, right? This is where the inside baseball happens. And this is exactly the target audience for this kind of shit. So, yeah. Dr. Abdul responded to it. I saw. To which he said, that's what you get when you don't have a message. U.S. Senate candidate Abdul Sayed says the ban passes by his media availability. I agree. And people will say, oh, that's just joyless. It's like, well, you know, we're fighting fascism. Lock the fuck in, you know? That's my attitude about it. But, obviously a lot of other people will have different opinions. She doesn't say anything of value in this clip, and that's because McMorrow sent a policy paper to AIPAC for their endorsement. There's legitimate reason to be skeptical of anything she says. She wanted their support, but they were already fully backing Stevens. McMorrow may not get AIPAC funding from the official organization itself, but their donors fund her Senate campaign, and her stance on Israel and her Palestine is unclear. When a politician is so unclear about an 80-20 issue for her base, it's telling. To which UMich voter said, no winning over online leftists, it's best to ignore them. Loudest voices with demands about releasing policy papers equals one that would never budge. And misinformation and say, look at the policy sheet you just released and spam it on social media. Just like they mislead lifetime lobby donors from J Street equals AIPAC. Discourage evolution on policy, AIPAC comes out as the winner. It's constantly shifting goalposts with their vote. I like that this person is just straight up saying, I don't want to know about my candidate's like actual views. I don't want to know what my candidate has said to AIPAC about what their views would look like on an 80-20 issue. It's cool, man. Yeah. I mean, look, I have a dog in this fight, right? I'm open about it. Yeah, I like Abdul. The reason why I like Abdul is because I know what his positions are on this, right? I know what his positions are. You don't. But you also seemingly don't care. I guess that's the difference. Do we want to have democracy, or do we want to have oligarchs dominate the land and buy out our politicians? For many people on election Twitter, they don't care. They don't care if oligarchs buy out our politicians. Yeah, remember when people kept saying Hassan is not a Democrat? Turns out it's a good thing. New, do you consider yourself more of a supporter of the progressive movement? 55% say yes. Only 45%, according to this NBC poll, say they consider themselves a part of the Democratic Party as opposed to the progressive movement. It's the majority now. I think it would be nice. It would be nice if all of these centrist Democratic Party boosters started recognizing that. Part of that already happened with Barack Obama. Barack Obama recognized it. Guys, the download completed. Shut up. Okay? Calm down. Yes, the download for Pragmata completed. Look. The point I'm trying to make is this. People within the ranks of the Democratic Party demand more. And Democrats are starting to recognize that, and they're trying to do everything they can to undermine that change, to not offer exactly what people want, okay? To not offer exactly what people want. That is the goal here. Ultimately, they want malleable candidates in positions of power, malleable candidates that will still put the corporate interest first before they put your interest second or sometimes last. So, remember that when we are fighting this battle and you are talking to others, when you are trying to get people to go out and vote, especially in the primary structure. The primaries is where the future of the party is decided. It's very, very, very important. Malleable McMorrow. What is this? It gets worse. He said, why weren't you happy with us recognizing the genocide? What is this? It's constantly shifting goalposts, but their voter support is never up for grabs. You should ignore and communicate to the normal public. The goalpost shifted so much. Recognizing that genocide is happening is no longer the post. Opposing offensive weapon sales is no longer the post. Emphasis on their support or vote is not up for grabs. I don't know how you morally reason with arming a country committing a genocide. The goal of the left was never to merely recognize the genocide that was occurring. It was to stop the genocide. And this is why this issue causes tension. Liberals have no real desire to stop the genocide. Yeah, I just don't understand why people just so openly will be like, come on, man. She recognized that it's a fucking genocide. What more do you want? It's like, okay, I don't know. If you actually recognize it, then, you know, you should probably put an end to it, right? You should probably try to hold this institution, this entity accountable that has done this genocide, right? Like there's the significance of the term genocide is not just so we feel good that we got you to say it. We want you to also issue punishments accordingly. This is the problem. A lot of the election Twitter guys, especially those who are on the centrist variety, they only think about winning elections. Like they only think about this in terms of like, what can a candidate say that is mathematically calculable that will bring in the highest percentage of voters? This is not what we are looking for. We're looking for solving issues, okay? The left wants candidates to actually make material changes that will be beneficial for the working class, okay? It's not just about winning elections. The fact that those issues, especially left populism, is communicable, is easy to communicate, it's easy to understand, it's easy to comprehend, and will help win elections is an added benefit, okay? It's an added benefit. It's good. It's good. It's great. Glad that it works that way. But there are plenty of positions that the left holds, even when it's not exactly popular. The left holds those positions because they're true, right? It wasn't popular to advocate for Palestinian emancipation after October 7. It wasn't popular before October 7. We didn't do that to win elections. We did that because it's just the correct position to hold. We did that because it was the just position to hold. Same with Cuba. Right now, many people don't understand what the fuck's going on in Cuba. They don't care. But that doesn't change the reality that we are starving Cuba. That must end, especially as Donald Trump now talks about potentially bombing Cuba. The idea that you are acknowledging this but not doing anything to change it is showing me everything I already knew about your calculations. It's purely performative. For us, it's not performative. We actually do want something. What good is democracy what good is democracy if your candidate wins and then they don't advance your interests? It's nothing then. It's just team sports. You're going back to simply team sports, okay? It's just fucking team sports. That's not what politics is about. Politics is about winning power. Not just winning power for your team, not just winning power for Team Democrats. It's about winning power for your people, winning power for your neighbors, winning power for your friends and your family, winning power for the working class. That's what politics is about. And these guys who don't even get fucking paid in many circumstances are just on a team that doesn't represent them. It doesn't make sense. I don't understand it. I truly, truly do not understand it. Anyway, yeah, there's another Atlantic article this time about the Yair Rosenberg wrote about me. The problem with the Hassan Piker's Einstein story, people scrutinizing influencers for their views should also hold them to account for their facts. He's going to say Einstein was actually an Omega Zionist. How dare you? And not a socialist at all, you know? I assume. I haven't read it yet. But in any case, it's very fun that Atlantic, which is whose editor-in-chief is a Israeli concentration camp prison guard, famously, is very frustrated with my presence. But we have Manu Raju, how a must-win Michigan Senate race just became a GOP opening. Let's take a look.
More bullish about their chances of flipping the Senate. But in Michigan, a primary fight could douse those hopes.
Donald Trump should not be the president.
I'm leading the articles of impeachment on RFK Jr.
People love to say, well, it's because he's Arab and Muslim. No, it's because I'm from Michigan.
What started as an intra-party feud now is a clash over the party's future, what it stands for in the Trump era, and just how far left they should go. The battle includes former public health official Abdul El Sayed, a 41-year-old who is backed by Bernie Sanders and is staking out the most progressive positions.
This is about electability. Your party wants to hold on to this seat, of course.
There is this notion that electability is about being the least offensive. If that were true, why would Donald Trump have won the presidency twice? And too often in the Democratic Party, we're willing to move on our positions because of what Republicans say about us. I don't back down to anyone on anything.
Whoo! God damn, that's a good take. That's bars. And it's true. And I think that's a winning message. I think that's not only a winning message in the Democratic primary, but I also think that's a winning message in the general. That is a convincing message. As long as you have your convictions, as long as you say the truth, I think we have to give people more credit. I know that we can get more people on board, independents, moderates, people who have left the Democratic Party are willing to return. And many of them will. This is the thing, right? The Democratic Party knows that many of them will reluctantly return. Do we want them to reluctantly return and vote against Republicans, or do we want them to vote for change? What do you think is going to be a message that resonates? What do you think is going to create long-standing support to ensure that Republicans never win again? We don't want people to reluctantly vote against the Republican Party. We want people to enthusiastically vote for candidates. That's the major difference between us in this community and the centrist Democrats that demand incremental change.
Party establishment has its own favorite, Haley Stevens, a more moderate congresswoman from the Detroit suburbs.
Every single poll shows I'm the best person or the only person that can beat Mike Rogers.
And then there's a state senator, Mallory McMorrow, angling for both wings of the party, while offering this warning as the GOP unites behind Mike Rogers, a former congressman who narrowly lost a Senate bid in 2024, as they aim to make Michigan their firewall to prevent Democrats from netting the 4 seats they need to win back power.
And if he wins this seat, if they are successful in trying to buy this seat, then there is no path at all for Democrats to take control of the U.S. Senate.
Yeah, they're not going to win. Like, that's the thing. Like, who is more likely to lose to Mike Rogers? I personally think someone who is wishy-washy in the center on issues, or someone who's an establishment Democrat. This is what happened in 2024 in Michigan, right? Yes, the conditions are different. Yes, currently the environment favors the Democrats, but it's too big of a risk, in my opinion. It's too big of a risk to go for someone who openly says, I am trying to win the Goldilocks voter, you know, some of the more conservatives within the Democratic primary system, and also some of the more progressives. Like, I'm going to try to vacuum up as many votes as possible, because that reads as insincere. Okay? That reads as insincere. That reads as business as usual politics. And people want fighters. People want a candidate that you know what they represent. People want candidates that they are assured will fight for them, right?
The GOP outside group is preparing to spend a staggering $45 million in the final weeks of the midterms, more than any other pickup opportunity, all as Rogers now has a bigger war chest than any of his 3 would-be opponents.
That's not going to be an
Democrats
issue.
struggling with a thorny question in this swing state that President Donald Trump narrowly won twice and lost once. Should they nominate a firebrand to energize the base and take a harder line?
Anybody committed to shutting down Trump and the MAGA movement, That's
number one for you.
That's number one.
Or a more traditional Democrat, or even a leadership ally who could appeal to swing voters like this one.
Your vote is up for grabs.
It very much is.
So it could be either Democrat or Republican.
It could be.
Speaking to CNN in his hometown of Ann Arbor, El Sayed went further to the left than his foes on issues like abolishing ICE.
It's just the same lack of courage that Democrats deploy to argue as to why they should be taking money from corporations or why they should be hedging their bets on clear, obvious policies like abolishing ICE or guaranteeing health care through Medicare for all. And I think what you're seeing in this race right now is that people are sick and tired of the same old Democrats who lack courage.
But a glaring divide is
the dog allowed to move today? No. Yeah. You forgot. The new meta isn't that the dog is not allowed to move. The new meta is, oh my God, where is the dog? Did you kill the dog? Okay. Here, look, place. Look at that. I've shocked her so much. She's dead. You see that? She's literally dead. She's not even responding to the electrocution. Yeah, the new meta is the dog is never there. Rotisserie chicken. Anyway, let's continue.
over Israel in a state with a huge Arab American community in Dearborn and a big Jewish voting bloc.
So I'm
in
guessing the
Oakland
dog
County.
isn't allowed to move today based on the angry replies. Is this person not watching the stream? Are they watching on? Are they just like watching? They're just watching the chat, I think, or maybe just a bot. Do you not understand? We're explaining it to you. Yeah, the dog is not allowed to move. I like that you don't even know. I like that you don't even know the name of my dog, by the way. You're just in here. You're in it. You're in it for just pure shit talk. Okay. Audio only mode, maybe not even audio only mode, but on mute, just in it, looking at the chat, seeing what kind of reactions he can get from the fucking community. Why are you letting trolls annoy you? They're winning. I mean, they're not. This is not annoying me at all. I'm having fun with it.
Supporting Abdul.
Because he's not taking AIPAC money.
He's against the apartheid, against sending tax money to fund a genocide in Israel.
An independent UN inquiry concluded last year that Israel had committed genocide against Palestinians in Gaza, an accusation the Israeli government firmly rejects. El Sayed, a son of Egyptian immigrants who's born in Michigan and lost to Governor Gretchen Whitmer in a tense 2018 primary, was blunt on his views.
You said the Israeli government is evil. Do you think they're just as evil as Hamas?
Yes, killing tens of thousands of people makes you pretty damn evil. It's not how evil is this one versus that one. Hamas, evil. Israeli government, evil. We could say both.
Is Netanyahu, in your view, he's a war criminal?
Absolutely. Do you not think he is? When you conduct a genocide, you're a war criminal.
What do you make of
It's so basic too. It's just like kind of funny when people are like, well, how can you say that? It's like, I don't know. This is just like the most basic position of all time, you know? It's the most basic position of all time. What are we talking about? And it's also the overwhelming majority of the position. It's the position of virtually every human rights group. It's the position of the ICC. It's the position of the ICJ. You know, it doesn't make any sense. It's unbelievable that people are afraid to say it, right? Why is Ranu scared of you? Manu, you mean? He's not. He's actually invited me to do his show. We just never had the time to be able to do it. He's not.
the fact that Haley Stevens is backed by AIPAC?
I find that disastrous for our politics. And you should be more interested in what's happening in Michigan than you are interested in what's happening in Tel Aviv.
But about 60 miles away in Lansing, one Stevens supporter touts the Congresswoman's support for Israel.
It's a normal position for normal Democrats to support and, be allies with Israel.
No, it's not. You are literally, again, you are in the unbelievably tiny sliver minority at this point in the Democratic Party. You are totally, this is not a normal position, okay? This is like being an anti-abortion Democrat, okay? Right now, overwhelmingly, Democrats are pro bodily autonomy for women, okay? Perhaps at a different time, at a different place, that was not the case. But now it's a 90-10 issue, right? So is Israel. So when you come out and you're like, well, you know, it's good. It's good that we are still supporting and sending weapons and sending money to this foreign country that's committing a genocide and doing a litany of war crimes and dominating American foreign policy in a very meaningful way, taking up so much of our bandwidth, basically playing Trump like a fiddle, causing gas prices to go up as a consequence of manipulating the American administrative state into taking violent action against a totally separate sovereign nation like Iran. Like, that is an unbelievably unpopular position, okay? No one wants this. And it's not just even the Democratic Party. Outside of the Democratic Party, people are like, nah, we're done. We're done. We're done. We're fucking done.
I'm a normal Democrat. I want to vote for a normal Democrat.
The 42-year-old Stevens, who first won a battleground district in 2018, is running a middle-of-the-road campaign and wants to stay focused on economic issues.
You have the support of AIPAC in this race. I'm wondering, do you embrace that support?
Well, look, I'm campaigning in a grassroots way alongside a ton of engaged Michiganders.
But there's also talk about, from some of your opponents here, that Israel, in their view, committed genocide in Gaza. Do you agree with that?
I don't agree with that. And like I've been very consistent on this issue, Manu. I just think we need to see long-term peace. We need to make...
Is that position, though?
Oh my God. Manu has more smoke for the pro-AIPAC Democrat in this race. Oh my stars and garters, what am I seeing? What am I seeing? A sea change. That's what. Oh my God. Manu Raju interviewed a candidate who said Israel is evil and had less pushback for the candidate who said Israel is evil versus a candidate who is openly pro-Israel. This is a tide shift. You have to understand. Now, this is not going to be the same for Dana Bash. It's not going to be the same for Jake Tapper. But the very fact that CNN, one of the major anchors on CNN, is now conducting interviews like this that is more adversarial towards the pro-Israel position means that we have seen such a dramatic change in attitude in American politics. Such a dramatic change in attitude in American politics that even CNN is being more responsive to this change. Okay? That is unbelievable. This doesn't mean that the entire institution all of a sudden is going to be anti-Zionist. Okay? Yeah. Eitan Nechin from Haaretz says, it says a lot about our political discourse that something as a no-brainer that Hamas are evil is treated as a gotcha question. The smart candidates are taking this opportunity to shine the light back on Israel's messianic government. Once again, wait, what is this? Obviously, this is a stupid question, but whoever hosts Hassan Fikri at an election rally brought it on themselves. Sure, I'm talking about Saeed's clever response. I'm saying this is an easy pivot that puts the pressure back on pro-Israel leadership in the DNC and beyond to condemn the Israeli government. Hamas is evil, so is Ben Gvir is a pretty easy sell. Now, Hassan Fikri is funny. It's not a dumb question after 10-7. It reflects the remarkable pro-Hamas tilt in activist circles and on the Hassan Piker wing of the left, now being courted by the DNC. Also, Hamas apologetics on the Jewish left, the JVP, and Jewish currents. So here's the thing. Okay? People coming on board with this position is good, okay? It means that discourse has shifted. Obviously, no person that's running for Senate on the Democratic Party side is going to be like, Hamas is a militant resistance group that is exercising their legal right to militarily resist against an apartheid state, right? We're not there yet, unfortunately. It's the truth, and I will say the truth, but the expectation from, politicians, especially that have an unbelievable spotlight on this, is not going to be for them to say the entire truth. Hopefully one day, okay? Once the dust is settled, you will see. But the very fact that someone can openly say, like, look, dude, it's just, this conversation is not even about Hamas. It's about Israel. and the conversation shouldn't even be about Israel. It's a done deal amongst the base of support, is good. Okay? It's good. I watch out for co-opting operations like Libs did with BLM. Okay, no one at this stage of the discourse, people are not co-opting a Israel is evil message, okay? The co-optation is taking place. The co-opting is taking place on the McMorrow wing of the party, where they'll be like, well, Israel is doing a lot of mean things, but we still need to give them weapons. You know, that's people trying to co-opt that message, right? That's people trying to co-opt that message. But the reality is, anyone that just straight up says embargo, accountability for Israel, that's not a message that is co-optable by the political class as it stands currently. Okay? That is not a message that is co-optable by the political wing of the party or the candidates themselves. So anyone that will come out and be like, no, we have to do accountability to Israel, this is ridiculous, that's good.
It's going to hurt you in Dearborn where you need those Arab voters.
Look, I'm out here every single day hearing from Michiganders who are dealing with rising costs, who are worried about their jobs.
McMorrow, the 39-year-old Democratic whip in the state Senate, goes further than Stevens.
Do you think that Benjamin Netanyahu has committed war crimes in Gaza?
I do.
Hasanabi, I'm coming for Hasanabi. Hasanabi, I'm coming for you. Buddy, you got to dial it back, okay? Be normal, please. It's weird.
You know, watching the devastation, I do believe the war crimes were committed.
As she stumps in breweries, including one in the Detroit suburb of Canton.
I like Mallory. She's a tough talker.
McMorrow says El Sayed's rhetoric does not match reality.
Rhetoric is nice, but...
I'm gonna come.
That's what the chatter said. Chatter said,
I'm gonna come.
Results are better.
Do you think that he is pretty much all rhetoric, his campaign?
I think a lot of it is.
Is the Democratic Party looking for someone, though, who really wants to shake things up?
Absolutely. Just doing rallies and talking about issues and having rhetoric without knowing how to actually implement those things is not going to shake it up at all. That's just lobbing bombs from the outside.
Yet McMorrow has drawn criticism from El Sayed for shifting her stances on issues such as Israel and corporate PAC money.
It's not just your positions. It's about whether or not you truly and deeply hold on to them.
But does it look like to you that...
Yeah, that's a classic. That's a classic take of like, I'm a serious candidate. My opposition is a die in the wool activist who will try to gain as much support as possible, but they're not serious about doing politics. That's bullshit. We saw that with Zoran. People said that exact same thing about Zoran. Zoran is a better governor, okay? And I don't mean like literally the governor of New York. Obviously, that's not his position. He's a mayor. But he is a better politician, a better elected than 99.9% of Democrats, right? Centrist Democrats try to weaponize this moderate framework as though it means that you will be a better candidate. It means that you will be a better politician once elected. It's not the case, okay? Governance, not governor, governance. Zoran Mamdani has shown that no, actually, being the most left, being the leftmost candidate doesn't just mean you're engaging in empty rhetoric, okay? I think this kind of attack from the center towards its left flank is also turning into bullshit.
McMorrow is shifting her position. She does not have the same deeply held views as you.
I know where my positions are, and it's clear that she's moved on a lot of these questions.
While Stevens accepts corporate PAC money, McMorrow says she now refuses it after accepting it in past campaigns.
That's a change. That's a flip.
McMorrow defends her pivot.
Over the years, I learned that not only can we campaign...
She's like, you don't understand. Like, corporate PAC money, Israel, you know, I've grown from my positions since last year. Okay. I've learned, I've grown. Okay. Well, you know, when when Abdul was running in 2018 in the governor's race, right, in the gubernatorial race, he knew about those positions ahead of time. So maybe it's time to reward people who were right all along instead of assuming that whatever positions they take now are far too radical now. You arrived at our side, our positions. Great, wonderful, fantastic. But you can't use your newcomer status to yell at people who have already been there while simultaneously talking about other positions that they currently hold that you might adopt 2 cycles from now.
Differently, but we can't be Republican light. And I am willing to be somebody who evolves.
El Sayed has accused McMorrow of co-opting his positions and copying his homework poorly.
This is governing, it's not middle school.
Yet it's El Sayed who has generated the most headlines, like when he barnstormed college campuses with widely followed left-wing streamer Hassan Piker, who has a history of inflammatory comments, including saying Hamas is a, quote, 1,000 times better than Israel.
I love that. I love when they put that shit on CNN because I feel like the CNN audience is going to hear that and be like, wait a minute.
Comments, including saying
look,
Hamas is a, quote,
This statement is perfectly positioned to sound controversial, but it causes people to think about it and reflect on it and arrive at a position that CNN executives don't want to hear, that politicians don't want to hear at all. Okay? Because most people, especially in 2026, when they hear that, they go, yeah, I kind of understand what that is. I get where that's coming from. I'm not the biggest fan of Hamas, right? But that is a quantifiable statement to make. It's got something for everybody in it, okay? That's why I made it. Like, it's a statement to force people to reflect on, okay? Incorrect comparison. Why? Oh, because I'm not saying Likud versus Hamas. Is that what it is? Well, Hamas is the expression of the Palestinian resistance, just as, you know, Israel, as it stands currently, is Likud, okay? Is the coalition that Likud has put together. So that's the reason why I don't have an issue making this comparison. There's also a problem with this sentiment for those who want to oppose it, right? For those who want to oppose it, they can't make the argument on the numbers. They can't turn around and say, no, here's why Israel is actually a lot better. They can't. That's why it's a perfect statement, in my opinion. But the very act of having this conversation itself moves the needle in our direction. This is not a bad thing. This is a good thing. Okay? It's a very good thing.
1,000 times better than Israel. And this about the 9/11 attacks.
America deserved 9/11, dude. F it. I'm saying it.
While Piker later walked back the remarks about 9/11, El Sayed's opponents have seized on them.
Should he have brought him in to campaign with him?
I wouldn't have.
Yeah. Well, first of all, that's not someone I'd be campaigning with.
Why not?
Because it's un-American. And we shouldn't say that America is, deserved 9/11. This is about winning for Michigan.
El Sayed pushes back.
What do you say?
My understanding of America is it's a place where we have freedom of speech. My understanding of America is it's a place where we're willing to have conversations with folks with whom we disagree. I went on Fox and Friends this morning. Is it un-American to go and speak on Fox and Friends, or are we drawing certain kinds of lines? And it's that penchant for cancel culture that I think people hate about Democrats.
But you're actively campaigning with them. This is a choice you're making. So,
For sure.
So why make that choice to actively campaign with them?
Because I know that he's having a conversation with a number of folks who feel locked out.
Part of that conversation is whether
Yep. Oh, no. Haley Stevens doesn't want me on her side. What are we going to do?
the party should dump Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer, whom Stevens has praised.
You had called Chuck Schumer a great leader. Do you stand by that?
Look, inside baseball, look, you know what? That kind of stuff we'll deal with when I get there.
But
oh my God. I think this a Stevens versus Abdul matchup would be so insane too. Like if McMorrow wasn't in the cards right now, can you imagine a Stevens versus Abdul matchup, dude? It would be Graham Plattner 2.0. Okay. It would be another Graham Plattner victory condition. Because, like, she has no redeemable qualities. Like, she is an AIPAC stooge. She's pro Chuck Schumer. Like, it is so bad. It is so bad. It's literally just a classic battle of, like, the establishment wing of the party that has delivered failure after failure versus this rising left flank that has a lot of momentum on its side. Unfortunately, elections are not lost and won on that popular momentum. I know it sounds crazy to say because, like, that's what elections are supposed to be. Who you got on your side, how many people are on board with your message, right? But that's just not how elections work in the United States of America, because it's not necessarily about, like, whose message you abide by, who you genuinely believe is going to earnestly fight for your rights. It's more so about campaign ads backed by different foreign interest groups and corporate lobbies that are just going to inundate you with a barrage of ridiculous attack ads that actually cut away from your message, that try to undermine your message. But even then, I think Abdul has done a fairly decent job, especially cutting through that noise.
McMorrow says it's time for a change.
We need new leadership in the Senate.
Haley Stevens told me that that's an inside baseball discussion.
I can tell you what I hear on the ground, which is people want a better Democratic Party.
Let's turn back to my panel, including David Weigel, who's been covering this as well.
Shit.
And David, you tweet that kind of summed up basically the entire premise here. The entire primary, basically, El Sayed, I'm taking the most maximal left-wing position. McMorrow, I wouldn't go that far. Stevens, oh golly, I love manufacturing. It kind of speaks to what we're seeing the party. How do you see this?
You like to be pithy.
Yes.
But that's been the dynamic for a year. El Sayed got in a year ago and just put down his stakes as the Bernie candidate, day one endorsement from Bernie Sanders, who's been more aggressive, I think, this cycle than the past in saying, these are my candidates. You guys don't know how to win. I do. One of the challenges of Michigan is Democrats do know how to win Michigan, not against Trump twice, but Michigan has a record of senators who are not that flashy, who do the work. Debbie Stabenow and Gary Peters get reelected despite not being social media stars. And the offer that they have is from El Sayed, a very aggressive, progressive to the left wing media star. McMorrow has been, there's a reason she was on stage as a state senator at the DNC in prime time. McMorrow's a communicator that Democrats feel very comfortable with. Stevens is, I was in Michigan when she won her 2022 member-on-member primary with the help of AIPAC. That and the idea that Chuck Schumer supports her are very unpopular when I talk to Michigan Democratic voters, even moderate Democratic voters. The fact that AIPAC was for her in 2022 was coming up a year ago. I think it's probably coming up much more now that she can't be trusted on not just the intricacies of Gaza, but that she is a D.C. establishment Democrat. And even though we had those very recently, Michigan, maybe we need something
Completely different now. Stevens and McMorrow, we can't let Republicans win. Abdul, here are the policies I will fight for. How about we just let Michigan vote in the primary and let them choose who they want? A handsome, charismatic man is running on popular policies that will help the working people. Here's why that's bad for Democrats. We can't run candidates that promise to do things. We might alienate the people who would prefer we did the exact opposite of what most people want. Every poll shows I'm the best person to beat Mike Rogers. What does that even mean? I hate this labeling of Al Sayed as a firebrand on the far left, calling out a genocide in Netanyahu as a war criminal. I guess now is considered a firebrand. Supporting the working class is now considered far left. He is the only candidate not bought by corporate interests. No to AIPAC, yes to Medicare for all, increase taxes on billionaires, close loopholes, simple. Damn, people are really responding. Absolutely abolish ICE. See, this is what it is. Like, I mean, it's just CNN comments, but like people resonate with this. It's not a radical position at all. Like, even Dave Weigel says, like, oh, Abdul's saying, like, I'm going to take the most maximally left-wing position. The reality is we could go a lot further left than that in this country, right? We could go a lot further left than that. I'm certainly a lot further left than Abdul on many of these issues. But, like, from the perspective of mainstream media, a guy who comes out and says, why are we spending all of our tax dollars on a foreign nation that is like blowing up fucking schools instead of spending our tax dollars on building schools here in the United States of America? Why can't we do Medicare for all? Why can't we stop Israel, restrain Israel? Like, these are not maximally left-wing positions at all. These are actually perfectly understandable majoritarian positions Okay. It's just seen as maximally left-wing positions on CNN. It's seen as maximally left-wing positions on even MS Now. And it is seen as maximally left-wing positions on the DNC side of things, right? There is this massive divergence between the party and the people. And that same exact divergence actually exists within the media class as well, as opposed to the working class. And candidates like Abdul, I think, are exposing that contradiction, exposing that divergence by being the guy who is more responsive to the needs of the masses. So we shall see.
Former Vice President Kamala Harris was in Detroit today, speaking at the Democratic Women's Caucus luncheon, and she did not hold back.
We are dealing with the most corrupt, callous, and incompetent presidential administration in the history of the United States. Period.
Period. Michigan is shaping up to be one of the most closely watched Senate races of this entire cycle. And one progressive candidate is already pulling in major national endorsements. Abdul El-Sayed, a physician, a former Detroit health director, and a 2018 candidate for governor, has now earned the backing of Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. A new Emerson College poll shows a neck-and-neck race between El-Sayed and Mallory McMorrow at 24% each. But a large percentage of likely primary voters remains undecided. And Abdul El-Sayed joins us now. Thank you for being with us, sir. It is good to talk to you. I want to get into, right off the top, the Iranian war. It is really something that is on the minds of a number of Americans. And Dearborn, Michigan is home to the largest concentration of Lebanese Americans in the U.S. So what are you hearing about this ceasefire deal between Israel and Lebanon from some of the people in Dearborn and throughout Michigan?
Obviously, we always pray for peace, but we've got to ask ourselves what we actually got out of this in the first place. Why did we even fight this war? It's hard to make any sense out of any American lack of war aims because it changed every day. But you have to remember who did have war aims. Benjamin Netanyahu has
set to it, Ron. Thank you for the 10 gift of subs.
Been trying to get this war fought for the past.
If El-Sayed wins the primary, what are his chances of winning the general? It's a lock. It's the easiest lock of my life. It is the easiest guarantee of all time. Okay. For a lot of leftist candidates, it's much harder to get out of the primary than it is to beat the Republican opposition in the general. Okay. Especially someone like Mike Rogers. Abdul is a perfect counter to Mike Rogers, right? He's Michigan through and through. And on top of that, he has a background in public health in the state of Michigan. Mike Rogers has done quite a bit in terms of undermining public health, not just in Michigan, but all across the country, with his affiliations with Big Pharma, right? With his background on Big Pharma, he has actually started tailoring his message against Mike Rogers as well, talking about how like Mike Rogers is responsible for the opioid deaths in this country. So like there is a perfect foil situation here as well.
40 years, he finally found a president dumb enough to do it. And you look at where we are now. Israel has used this opportunity to try and, in effect, annex southern Lebanon, and that's exactly what they've done. So people are afraid and they're sad, they're hoping and praying for peace. But then for everybody, you think about the spike in your gas prices and the fact that your own tax dollars are what was used to spike those gas prices. I think all of us have to look back and ask, how the hell did we get here?
I want you to hear what some people have been saying about this ceasefire deal. I think some people are questioning whether there truly is a ceasefire right now, but between Israel and Lebanon. Take a listen to this, and I'll have a question for you on the other side.
I'm not entirely confident, no. Unfortunately, I wish I could be because I am so scared and worried about all of my relatives that are there right now. And it's absolutely heart-wrenching to see the news.
My elementary school, my childhood home, a lot of memories have been wiped out in South Lebanon. It's going to be very, very hard for the people to rebuild. And quite honestly, I'm not optimistic about this ceasefire, because we had a ceasefire in November of 24, and Israel did not comply.
Can I ask you how you think not just this current moment of war, but the last several years of war have changed Americans of all backgrounds, of all life experiences, how it has changed their understanding, not just of the world, but also of the way that our tax dollars have been used, and how you see that impacting this campaign, because you see it so much, not just from Lebanese Americans in Michigan, but so many Americans who seem to actually understand our current domestic conditions differently because of what they've seen unfold on the international stage.
You know, I think you're exactly right. I was the health director for Wayne County. I served the community from which both of those two individuals, who I know personally, come from. And every time you come up with a plan to do something like put glasses on kids' faces or eliminate medical debt or provide new small businesses health insurance, everybody says, doctor, how are you going to pay for that? But then we've got a general who wants to draw up war plans to bomb Iran. Nobody asks, General, how are you going to pay for that? And I think that's exactly what's wrong with our politics. I think for many Americans, they're opening their eyes to the fact that for most of my life, if you're under 40, you've watched our country go to wars, and you ask, to what end? You see service members broken over it. You see tax dollars spent on it. And you see all of the things that your government should be doing for you not getting done. And so I think a lot of people are finally opening their eyes and asking, I don't pay my taxes so that another country gets a bomb or a tank. I don't pay my taxes to kill other people's kids. I pay my taxes so that our kids get good schools and can walk sidewalks that are actually functional, can drive clean roads, can get health care. And so I think for a lot of people, they're opening their eyes, whether they're Lebanese in a community like Dearborn or they're anywhere in the rest of the state. And I got to tell you, I've been in 90 cities. People ask the same sets of questions about why are we doing that instead of taking care of my kid or rebuilding my kid's schools.
Doctor, you have traveled and canvassed so much of the state. So I want to ask you to comment on some leaked audio that the Free Beacon obtained. And we're going to play the audio and then...
That's crazy. This is MS Now, dude. What the fuck? MS Now playing Washington Free Beacon? Oh, brother. I swear to God, center-right liberals turn into MAGA the moment that you got a left flank candidate on the board, okay? It is truly unbelievable to watch. I mean, that's crazy. What are you doing? Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're going to run with the framing? You're going to run with the framing of the Washington Free Beacon? The Washington Free Beacon is a newspaper that perfectly captures the Hitler particles, okay? Why the fuck are you running with their hit job? It doesn't make any sense.
I'll come to you at the end of it.
I also want to remind you guys that there are a lot of people in Dearborn who are sad today. So, like, I just don't want to comment on Khamenei at all. Like, I don't think it's worth even touching that.
So, Doctor, this was a day after the strike that killed the supreme leader. And I just want to ask about your political calculation here. What's the constituency in Dearborn that was mourning this assassination?
I think anybody in Dearborn or the rest of the state who believes that there's a rule of law was mourning an illegal, unjustifiable war. There are terrible leaders all over the world. The reason why we go after somebody in Venezuela or we go after somebody in Iran, those are open questions when you see the president cavorting with leaders in places like Qatar or places like the UAE and Saudi Arabia. And so I think there are people who are frustrated by the fact that there was no justification for this war. It was entirely illegal because only Congress gets to declare war. And I think everybody is frustrated about the fact that when you go and fill up your gas tank, you're paying $20 more. I think it's important for policymakers to step back and ask, do we just jump in whenever...
I don't understand how it's controversial to be sad about anyone's death. I mean, look, dude. It's a totally ridiculous hit job from a dude that was in his campaign that got access still after he left the campaign that had access to these private conversations, the long video, like if they were to play the entire video, which is like 27 minutes long or whatever, you hear his perspective on this issue. It's very clear, where he just straight up is like, I think it's totally ridiculous that we're waging this war. It's unbelievable. It's going to have horrible consequences for America. It's going to have horrible consequences for Iranians. It's just like an unlimited death and destruction campaign. It's like perfectly clear what his position is. There's no defense for this. There is no defense for what Trump has done thus far. There's not even a defense for it from like a pro-American empire position. So yes, I saw. She's traversing the fucking halls with the
president
band.
tells us that they're making war in our interest, or do we actually step back and ask, whose interest is this really? Who really benefits from this war? And I think I wanted to make sure that our campaign was not jumping right in, like unfortunately too many Democrats have, to do this incoherent thing where we're saying, well, if the president's taking us to war, then we have to stand right there with them. But at the same time, it was illegal because you didn't follow the procedure rules. No, it was illegal. It was unjustifiable. It was unethical. It's immoral. It should never have been waged. And so I think more leaders should actually be thinking about how we step in with our morals rather than just to be dictated by whichever way the political winds are flowing.
But I'm not asking about the policy.
Look. Oh my God. That's it. This is MS Now chat. Guys, we are watching supposedly the most liberal, the most like left media out there. Like that, this is unhinged. This is unbelievably unhinged, dude. Oh my God. Oh my fucking God. Let's see what people are saying. El-Sayed is presidential. Thank you, Dr. El-Sayed, for saying what too many Democrats have garbled is an illegal war of naked aggression. Where's this pushback and asking good and tough questions when they have Republicans on? Disappointed in the gotcha questions for MS Now. So much truth resulting in a barrage of trolls. Primaries are coming, people, and our country desperately needs more people like El-Sayed. Mallory and Stevens are Israel first. Dr. El-Sayed will be an amazing senator. His expertise, intelligence, and well-spoken opinions backed by facts. It's just like, I don't understand why liberal media is still holding on to this thing. Like, I don't know why they are so oppositional to their left flank. I truly don't get it. I don't get it. Just be more normal. Be more responsive to the people's needs, please. Again, this is why I wasn't so critical on the Obama-Zoran link up. Okay?
Which certainly you're very eloquent about, and why you're disagreeing. I'm asking about the political calculation and the choice that you made as a campaign to not weigh in, which earlier in the year, a few days after Charlie Kirk was died, you condemned his speech as xenophobic and hateful and did not hesitate. So what is with it?
Yeah, because Charlie Kirk is an American citizen that is MAGA. Commies on Twitter are cooking you about the Obama take. Yeah, I don't care. I'm not in this to deal with ultras, okay? With anti-electoral leftists in general. It's unbelievably irrelevant to have a conversation about that, okay? Commies on Twitter many of them are in my community as well, okay? The reality of the matter is we have an entirely different agenda when it comes to moving the needle, okay? We have a very different attitude. We have a very different method. We have a very different assessment of what the major problem is. Maybe they think that the revolutionary potential of the masses is here and it's happening, and there is an opportunity to create a communist party and sweep up the Marxist-Leninist vanguard in all of this fervor. Okay, I don't believe that the time for that is here, because I talk to a lot of people. I see their anger. I see their resentment. But what I also see is a lack of class consciousness and very little political education. Okay? You have to build a vanguard before you automatically hit the socialism button or the communism button. Right? It's that simple. Yeah. Many people got mad at this. He's already in office. Why the fuck does he need credibility from peanut-brained liberals? This is it. Like, people don't understand. Zogsan explaining why Zogran Goidani has to appear with former droner-in-chief. It's just, it's such a strange position to be in because I eat it from all of the left flank, like all of the people who I'm ideologically aligned with, ironically enough. And then I also constantly get yelled at by fucking dumbass centrist liberals as well. I obviously have a lot more smoke for the centrist liberals because they do actually have power and they do use that power for evil, as opposed to Twitter chirpers who have no power whatsoever. All they're doing is chirping. So let them chirp is what I say. Okay? I'm not going to engage in like left bashing. I'm not going to punch left. I don't care. I am. It's fine. You're totally right. I am Zogsan, and I am a Zionist. I love the nation state of Israel. Talk to me when you make a convincing message where you explain the necessity or the morality of resistance groups against America and its allies on a liberal platform where you're able to actually cut across that message amongst liberals who do understand it. It's fine. It's okay. There is a reason why they're not yelling at random hammer and sickle posters on Twitter every day, on CNN and Fox News and MS Now, and they're yelling at me instead because you're chirping to the same echo chamber. I am trying to get this message across to people who are more understanding and more sympathetic. But it's all right. It's all right. If you can't comprehend why these people are all up in arms and not only yelling at people like myself, but also yelling at candidates that I have appeared alongside, you're unfortunately not very serious about what's going on here. These things all move the needle. These things all change the dynamic of the conversation. It takes a long time. Okay? It's not overnight. It takes a long ass fucking time. Did I say echo chamber? I meant echo chamber.
Is it about what
You got me. I said echo chamber instead of echo chamber. Yes, I'm a fucking stupid ass chud loser. I'm fucking dumb. I'm a libtard. I love Israel, and you guys got me. Okay.
side of the aisle a person is on and who you're willing to risk offending when it comes to how you met out cancel culture?
Well, I don't mete out cancel culture, rather well known. I go everywhere, talk to everyone. I condemn what Charlie Kirk said because I thought it was racist and xenophobic. I'll also condemn what the Ayatollah said because he was a dictator on his own people. But the question is about whether or not our government had the right and the justification to assassinate a foreign leader. I think under Trump, we probably all agree that this administration has taken certain proclivities with the rule of law, and that has led to actions in places like Venezuela and Iran that are unjustifiable and unethical. Just because you disagree with somebody doesn't mean that you can assassinate them. That's what international law is supposed to protect from, and that's what I was talking about. So yeah, I disagree with the Ayatollah. I disagree with Charlie Kirk. I'll openly say that in every circumstance. But the question is whether or not that justifies assassination. I don't justify the assassination of Charlie Kirk. What happened to him was wrong, and I don't justify the assassination of a foreign leader without actually following through and making sure you're standing in account with both the laws of our country and international law.
Abdul, you were just talking about going everywhere and talking to anyone. And to that end, I do want to ask you about the heat you've taken with respect to the leftist podcaster, Hassan Piker, and folks in the Democratic Party and elsewhere saying that he's made anti-Semitic remarks, he's made racist remarks, this is not someone who you should be associating with. How do you justify or reconcile those types of conversations?
It's just like
those types.
It's literally, it's MS Now, chat. It's fucking MS Now. Understand that we're no longer like quoting things that I've said. We're quoting of a quote off of a quote coming from the RNC. Okay. MS Now using Washington Free Beacon framing, Washington Free Beacon hit pieces, and also RNC framing on a leftist podcast or leftist Twitch streamer. It gives the game away. Like there is this weird convergence of interests here when you have someone who represents the interests of the masses. All of a sudden, everyone is just going crazy over this. Why is this person not talking about the updated remarks from someone like, Ezra Klein, for example? Why is MS Now currently using RNC framing, Fox News framing, rather than the framing of Ezra Klein? Ezra Klein is King Lib. You have to ask that question. Did they not read the Ezra Klein piece? I'm sure they saw it. Why are they still choosing to go along with right-wing framing on this?
Of connections with your campaign and your candidacy, with the need for Democrats to be able to reach audiences and voters that perhaps in 2024 they could not motivate to the polls?
Well, I'm just taking the lesson from 2024. There are two lessons there. The first one was Vice President Kamala Harris invited Hassan Piker to stream from the DNC. He went at the invitation of the vice president running for president at the time. I basically did the same thing. But the second lesson I took is that maybe we were not aggressive enough at making sure that we were reaching out to voters we could engage with. I understand that folks are frustrated about things that Hassan Piker has said. I don't agree with everything he said. I don't agree with everything you've said. I don't agree with everything anyone has said. That's just the nature of human interactions. But he has a very large platform. He talks to a lot of folks who feel locked out of our political system. And I think if we want to win elections, we have to figure out how to provide them an on-ramp back into our politics. So it's important for me to make sure that we're not locking out a whole segment of people who get their news from somebody like Hassan, and making sure that we're engaging with that platform. So I go everywhere and talk to everybody. In fact, the day that we had Hassan Piker in Michigan, I started my day on Fox and Friends. Now, those folks don't agree with me. I don't agree with them. But I want to be able to talk to the sliver of people who might be listening, who are open-minded, who say, you know what, I really do want to get money out of politics. I really do want to put money back in my pocket, and I want to pass Medicare for all. So I think we need to make sure that we step back out of this cancel culture situation where we're saying, oh, we can't talk to certain people because they said certain things, and make sure that we're creating a pathway back into politics for everyone. And that means having the courage to go and have a conversation in all different kinds of spaces, because you just might...
You were on with this guy, too, on the Don Lemon show. This argument is dumb, or am I wrong? Wait. He was the guy who was spitting fire on the Don Lemon show? Wait, what the fuck? He was cooking on the Don Lemon show. Why did he switch up on me? Was he the guy? Was he the same guy?
Talk to somebody who agrees with you.
I want to go back to policy for a moment with the bit of time that we have left with you. As we mentioned before, you're a physician, public health expert, and you've been running on a platform that includes...
He's on the clock, bro. Yeah.
Medicare for All. I think a moment ago I saw a Medicare for All book somewhere in the background of your shot, actually. And so I want to get your take on how that message, that movement is going over in Michigan, a state that many people view as, it's a very competitive, often kind of purpley state. You would think that there are in some parts of your state voters who that's a message they might not feel as comfortable with. And so when you look at the makeup of communities in Michigan, when you also just think about the current conditions in Congress right now, do you truly believe Medicare for All is viable?
Yes, absolutely. I'm proud actually to have co-written that book. And the reason I know it's viable is because I've taken this campaign all over the state. I was in Houghton, which is in the Upper Peninsula's Upper Peninsula. And we had 100 people in a room, many of whom voted for Donald Trump, who were there to have a conversation about what it means to guarantee health care. I think we do a disservice to our politics when we analyze it in this left-right frame and then try to fit people in the middle. That's not how the world works. People have all kinds of different opinions. I had a guy come up to me and said, I don't like you very much. I said, oh, I'm sorry, I like you. He's like, I know. And it seems like you really want me to have health care. I said, I do. He's like, that's why I'm going to vote for you. So at the end of the day, I think it's important for us to make sure that we're having conversations about what the world could look like. We need a galvanizing ideal that brings people to the table about what they want. And right now, people are being destroyed by our healthcare system. You're talking about deductibles that are $6,000, and that's putting people into medical debt to the tune of 100 million people, $225 billion of medical debt in this country, in the richest, most powerful country in the world, as they burn $1 billion a day on war that we don't need to be fighting. So when you sit down and have a conversation and say, hey, listen, I'm a doctor. I literally trained in this system. I promise you we could do this right if we were willing to forego the corporations that tell us what we cannot have and the politicians who tell us what we should not fight for. So, yeah, I want to fight a fight so everybody can have health care. If I accomplish nothing less in my career in politics, I want everybody in this country to have health care. Imagine what that would feel like for people.
Dr. Abdul Al-Sayed, thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a lovely conversation.
All right, he cooked. And then last hit piece of Sunday. Last hit piece of Sunday is Rick Scott. Senator Scott is furious with Dems amid Hassan Piker feud.
Since changes. Nobody at the FBI has ever been held accountable for the over 200,000 Americans that have been served. Next administration start having a real conversation about how we do that, and I'm very optimistic.
Okay, so I want to get to this issue as well with Hassan Piker. He spoke.
Bro, I don't want to be perceived this much. Okay, I feel like this is crazy. How is this still going on? How is this still fucking going on? I mean, Rick Scott's like, he's got a bone to pick with me personally. He's just real mad that nobody gives a shit. I think it's really funny because like half the people don't believe him when they're like, yeah, we understand. He was using hyperbolic language when he was making a point, a rhetorical point about Republicans not giving a shit about Medicare fraud. And then the other half is like, no, I believe that he said that, and I like it. And I feel like the second part, like the second thing is worse for him overall. And I feel like every time he cries about this, like more and more people swing from the first position to the second one. You called a hit out on him and he won't shut the fuck up because he realized no one cares. I didn't even call a hit out on him. I didn't. But it is really funny that there are people who sincerely believe that I did and actually are on my side on this issue. Like, I would not have expected people to legitimately be like, no, we actually are on board with that second position. I didn't say that, or it wasn't my intention at all. And I feel like Rick Scott is turning that into the resounding message in this situation, which I find to be very funny.
At a function.
Yeah, like my goal there was to highlight the hypocrisy of the Republican Party, right? Rick Scott has turned this into a public poll on whether or not people want him assassinated for some reason. And the outcome of that poll is not one that favors him at all.
This week, and this is somebody who said of you, quote, if you cared about Medicare fraud or Medicaid fraud, you would kill Rick Scott. He spoke at Yale this week. You said Yale should lose its funding over that. I want to read something from a piece in the student paper. It says this: in a truly free society, we enjoy the right to debate and mock those with unsavory views to prove them wrong in the court of public opinion.
Wait.
By threatening Yale funding for merely...
Oh my God. Wait, is Fox News also shitting on Rick Scott? Wait. What the fuck? Yo, wait, hold on. They didn't just let the quote hang. They also showed the quote, even though the full context of it is me responding to Mike Johnson. Oh, the person who wrote this is a conservative.
Engaging in debate, Scott rejects our core American values. Your response?
Well, first off, he wants me killed. He wants every capitalist murdered.
I don't want you killed, man. I don't know why you have turned that into the main point of contention here, and it almost feels like other people. The more you put that up, other people are now coming on board with that message for some reason. I would just advise you to stop saying that. It seems, because you're such an unbelievably unpopular person that like every time you say that, more people get on board with that message. I don't know why you're doing it. You keep crying about it. Rick, stop crying about this. I promise. Like it's probably better for you to just leave this alone. You know, you're not going to get across your wishes here. It's very, very strange that people just, like every time you bring this up, more and more people are aware of your award-winning Medicare fraud that you committed to the tune of $1.7 billion, right? Like that's probably not good for you. And when they find that out, they turn around and go, wait a minute, I kind of am on board with this. He started to add, he wants every capitalist killed because nobody cared about him. Yeah, I know. He's just like trying trying to add on to the pile. He's like, he loves 9/11. He wanted to do a 9/11 on me. Okay.
He said that we deserve 9/11. He's clearly anti-Semitic. Democrats are campaigning with this guy. He went to Cuba. He went to Cuba with Democrats. He didn't go to the prison where here's an example of a political prisoner. This is what's happening in Cuba. No, they went down there and stayed at a 4-star hotel. So this is the Democrat Party today, and that's why I'm furious with Yale. The Democrat Party.
He's just like, again, not addressing the question at all. Why are you anti-free speech was the question. He never mentions how much medical fraud you've done. I know. I am not an award-winning medical fraudster like Ricardo is here, okay?
Supports this stuff. Yale, if they want to go support somebody that wants capitalists murdered in this country, right? So I don't want them to get any federal funding. I mean, it's pretty simple to me. They shouldn't be doing this.
So what about the debate, though, that conservatives have been having over the last couple of years, that they've been run off of campuses, their viewpoints have been silenced?
Ooh, wait, what? Why is she turning this into a free speech issue? What the fuck?
Haven't been allowed to talk, and that the First Amendment...
Wait, what the fuck? Wait, why is this Fox News Sunday anchor Shannon Bream seemingly on my side on this? What is happening?
I mean, it's pretty vigorous. The Supreme Court, just a couple blocks from here, is very supportive of it. Do you think there is any conflict in that position in saying that Yale should lose funding over this?
She keeps saying you're being inconsistent. This is at odds with the values of free speech.
Well, first off, these universities can do whatever they want. Don't come to the federal government and ask taxpayers from Florida to fund them. Why are we funding Yale? Why? Why are we funding these?
I don't know. Maybe because they're doing incredibly important research. Like if we're going to cut off funding, I think we should cut it off to Israel, right? And not our universities.
Places. I believe in the First Amendment. I believe everybody has a right to do these things. But my tax dollars shouldn't go there. When they want to support people that want to murder me and murder capitalists and are anti-Semitic and say America deserved 9/11, right? So there's no way.
Again, she goes, don't you think speech that you disagree with should still be allowed? And he turns around and goes, no, speech that I don't agree with should absolutely get the fucking funding hammer. Okay. All right, buddy.
My taxpayer money from Florida should be going to these places.
All right, Senator Scott, we appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on.
Incredible stuff. All right. Let's get to Mr. Kaki Kornacki. By the way, this guy talking about Florida funds is exceptional. Exceptional, considering he did defund Florida personally to make money. To the tune of $1.7 billion in Medicare fraud. I just want to point that out before we move on from this, which was the meat of the argument that I was presenting, that Republicans clearly don't care about Medicare fraud because Rick Scott is out there. He was the governor of Florida. He's now a senator. So, that's the inconsistency here. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And Rick Scott still did that shit.
Welcome back. NBC News Chief Data Analyst Steve Kornacki is here with the results of our latest NBC News Decision Desk poll. A lot of headlines here, Steve.
Yeah, Kristen, there's a lot in here. And I always remind people, I think, Decision Desk poll, this one's a little bit different than polls I think people are used to. This is all adults casting a very wide net here. But I think the picture that emerges is still very clear here. Donald Trump standing with the public here now, an approval rating in our poll here of just 37%. The last time this poll reported out a couple months ago, it was 39%. The big change from then to now, of course, is the launch of the war in Iran and everything that's continued to happen there. So down to 37% approval for Trump. And mention Iran, and look at this. A big driver of that clearly is how that war is going. Only a third of adults approve of Trump's handling of the war in Iran. There's a quarter, I should say, 1/4 of Republicans say they disapprove. Those who call themselves Republicans. That might be something to keep an eye on. This continues to be a problem for the president. Inflation, the cost of living. This has been the story of his second term. Only a third approving of how he's handling that. This area, though, if you want to say there's a bright spot in this poll for Trump, it's right here. Now, look, it's still majority disapprove on border and immigration, but these marks are higher than in other areas, and this is an improvement for Trump from earlier this year. Remember the incident in Minnesota, all of the attention on ICE back then. This number actually has come up a bit on border for Trump.
Yes, we're going to cover the Iranian. We're going to cover the U.S. Navy firing on an Iranian cargo ship in the Gulf of Oman. Okay. Yes.
People think should happen from here. And this right here, take no further action. That's by far the most common choice you're going to hear. 61% say that. And again, that includes a third of Republicans.
Well, and it's numbers like these, Steve, that are applying pressure to President Trump to bring this war to an end.
Yeah, I mean, it's very clear what you're seeing here in terms of that number. That's internationally what folks are thinking of. We mentioned the cost of living here. We say, what is driving, what matters most to you when it comes to economic matters? And again, no surprise here, but it's inflation, it's the cost of health care, the clear majority, one of those two things right there. Also, though, now more recently, the cost of gasoline, you know, what they're paying at the pump here. Add these two numbers together, very somewhat. 2/3, 65% say that the cost of gasoline is a serious, in some way, problem for them and for their families right now. And then I think there's an interesting question here, a broad question. Again, this connects with the Middle East. This connects with politics in D.C. this week. This ongoing question here, we asked the basic one. Who do you sympathize more with, the Israelis or the Palestinians? The country is dead even, 50-50.
Well, this is fascinating, but historically speaking, Steve, support for Israel has actually been higher.
Yeah, this is now much more even than it used to be, and there are two particular drivers of this. I think it's very interesting. One of them is partisan. Republicans, overwhelmingly on the Israeli side. Democrats, this is the big shift. Now, overwhelmingly 3-1 on the Palestinian side. And then the second piece of it, it's generational. It's age. Gen Z, that rising generation. Look at this. Across party there, 3/4 of Gen Z say they sympathize more with the Palestinians than the Israelis. That's a massive sea change.
It certainly is. It'll be fascinating to see how that plays out in the midterm. Steve Kornacki, thank you so much.
We thank you for watching. And remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.
We are back with some breaking news. This thanks to the president having posted on Truth Social that there was some activity relative to the U.S. blockade there in the Strait of Hormuz. Apparently, a U.S. Navy ship has commandeered an Iranian ship. Akela, what do you know about this?
Behind Trump's public bravado on the war, he grapples with his own fears. Philip Lemoyne says, this article confirms pretty much everything the Panicans have been saying about the war since the beginning. It's not 4D chess. Trump just thought Iran would capitulate immediately, and now he doesn't know how to get out of this mess. So here's a couple things that we got to talk about before we get to the ship. Okay, the Iranian ship that America is engaging in piracy over. Okay, privateers, baby, we're back. Number one, the Strait of Hormuz was supposed to be open at this point, right? And Donald Trump clearly, wait, what is this? Okay, never mind. Actually, breaking news. We're going to go back to, the Abdul El-Sayed situation happening at the MDP convention. We've seen a pretty animated, supportive response to Abdul El-Sayed here at the MDP convention today. Chance of Abdul breaking out after his competitor Mallory McMorrow gives a speech. Then the first standing ovation of the day when El-Sayed introed for his own remarks. Oh my God. And Haley Stevens was booed. Some very audible and prolonged booing for U.S. Representative Haley Stevens, who is running for U.S. Senate at the Michigan Democratic Party convention. Wait, maybe I was wrong. Does the MDP actually have the motion now? Is the MDP on our side? Oh my God. That would be remarkable.
Thank you, my friends. I'm standing up here. Michigan Democrats, I'm standing up here with my friends from Unite here.
They should have brought me to the MDP, Michigan Democratic Party. That would have bricked every Republican. I would have spoken to the Michigan Democratic Party. I bet the grandmas would have loved me too. I bet the grandmas would have loved my ass. That's the funniest thing, that these people try to create a narrative to try to make it seem like all of these like older people that are in the ranks of the party, they like despise the rabble rousers. That's not the case at all. Be serious, they would boo you too. Buddy, you have not left your crevice if you think that the Barbaras and the Deborahs are not infinitely closer to our worldview than the worldview demonstrated by MS Now and CNN. Okay? I'm telling you right now, dude, people think that the arguments that I present, albeit rude sometimes and crass and blunt, are not appealing for memas. It is appealing for the memas, okay? They do like it. They want more. The memas are abso-fucking-lutely demanding more from their representatives. I get more boos in this fucking chat than I do when I go to like a No Kings protest or whatever. Bro, you live in LA, anywhere between the coasts is not like that? Oh my fucking God. Brother, we're talking about Michigan, okay? We are talking about Michigan State. I went to Michigan State. I saw the people. You're out of your fucking mind. I don't know why people have to constantly, like, this, you know where this comes from? I don't know where you live, chatter, but more often than not, this is someone who is terrified of the countryside, which Michigan is not even a part of. Okay? You are not seeing the changes that are happening within the electorate. You are not seeing it. More often than not, these are people that live in like Connecticut or people that live in New York who just have this like, oh, they're all dumb fucking hicks attitude about people that live in the heartland. Okay? I live in Missouri. Okay, if you're comparing fucking Missouri to Michigan, you're also delusional in a different way. But even in fucking places like Missouri, do you think people fuck with Israel? No. Go and talk to your fucking neighbors, man. Jesus Christ. And not just neighbors in your blue area either. They literally do is all Bible thumpers here. Okay. Yeah, I was in Michigan, okay? This is how they treated me in Michigan. It's so funny, dude. I'm from Missouri, and they're all hateful, but they don't do with Israel. What do you mean? Oh, they don't fuck with Israel? Is that what you're saying? The point is, first of all, you're not going to always win every single person all the goddamn time. But there are certain issues that you can absolutely win people on, okay? Israel is one of them. It's so fucking annoying and stupid for chatters to say this shit. We watch the change live. We can see the ages of people walking up to you. They're denying reality right in front of their eyes. I know. It's so silly. It's so silly. All you're doing with that kind of fear-led response is caving to the centrist Democrat position. Okay? That's all you're doing. I'm at the Michigan Democratic Party convention in Detroit, and Abdul El-Sayed is objectively running away with this race. Positions like abolish ICE, Medicare for all, no APAC money, no more wars has got this crowd on fire. The people have woken up. And it's not just people who know who I am and like me. Like the memas, make no mistake, I'm not saying that like all the memas, all the grandmas, they know who I am, they watch the Twitch streams, and they like what I have to say. Okay? That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying they have arrived at that position on their own. Okay? They have arrived at that position on their own. And a lot of you are refusing to reckon with that because in your mind, you have developed an attitude of the electorate, especially on the Democratic Party side, that's just like dumb and not animated at all and not agitated about the way things are going and can't actually chart a better path forward for themselves. You're wrong. Okay? As contradictions worsen, and as the Democratic Party is seen as feckless, and we have plenty of evidence in the polls to show that Democrats themselves are experiencing discontent with the party itself, you are refusing to see the reality that is unfolding in front of our eyes. Okay? This is not about people coming into this chat and becoming like lifelong Twitch viewers or whatever the fuck. Okay? It's not about that at all. This is a real anger that lifelong Democrats feel towards their party because they are not representing the interests of the masses on the issue of Israel, on the issue of Medicare for all, on the issue of not being a real opposition party to the Republicans. These are on the issue of ICE, abolition of ICE. Democrats are frustrated. They want more. And what's actually great for people like myself, people like ourselves, is that there is no more gatekeeping that takes place when it comes to the places where people congregate in the digital environment. They don't just get their information from MS Now. They don't just get their information from New York Times. They get their information from people like myself. They get their information from Midas Touch. They get their information from social media. So now there are people who are responsive to their needs. There are people like myself and many others who are championing their causes, and therefore they feel more emboldened. They don't just get bullied into submission by corporate media, into just taking into only voting for business as usual politics and do nothing Democrats. Okay, this is the best beard situation. Power stash with 5 o'clock shadow. Thank you, chatter. Thank you for locking in. Like, look at this. This is the Michigan Democratic Party. The room has like, what, 7,000 people? Someone was saying, like, this is a 7,000 person attended event. And these are not the Hasanabi heads, okay? These are not the activist wing of the party. These are people who are 60 years old, 70 years old, and they're booing Haley Stevens because she's a pro-AIPAC candidate.
Michigan Democrats, I'm standing up here with my friends from Unite Here, who have endorsed my campaign for United States Senate, the working people of Michigan.
That's crazy. Like, if I'm Unite Here, I'm taking that endorsement back. You know what I mean? Getting booed by some of the most active party loyalists. This is not a hostile environment. This is supposed to be the most positive environment for Haley Stevens, right? Establishment candidate, backed by Chuck Schumer. Like, and they're getting booed. They're getting booed by the most active, the most prime base, a base that has never demanded more, a base that normally hears Chuck Schumer, the leader in the Senate, say, this is my candidate, and they go, oh, thank God. This is going to be the moderate wing of the party. This is going to be the real electability candidate. And they're sitting there and fucking booing her. And there are still chatters in my chat thinking that things have not changed. Guys, the conversation has dramatically shifted in our direction, okay? People no longer believe in the electability argument presented by corporate media. They don't believe that anymore. They no longer believe the electability argument that dictates that candidates shift their positions to the right in order to win the largest, group of voters or whatever. This electability argument, this false framing that is represented by the centrist wing of the party. Okay, they don't believe it. They want more, and they should want more. They believe, understandably, that electability also comes from taking popular positions, even if it's unpopular amongst the media class and the political class. And they want it. It's a post-Zoran universe right now. And it's sad that many of you still demonstrate that fear for no reason.
Look, I'm going to tell you all, I'm a daughter of Michigan. I was the daughter of small business owners.
I think Mallory's going to beat Abdul. There was a tweet you pointed out there said either Haley or Mallory should drop out, and now Haley voters might go to Mallory. She seems like the normal one to Dem voters. I'm worried. Again, this is fear guiding your advocacy. You don't have to be fearful anymore, okay? It's a totally different environment. I don't know why there are still people, even in this community, that want to concede ahead of time. Why would you let fear rule you, man? What the fuck's wrong with you?
Right here in the beautiful city of Detroit. And my life.
This is why we say we have to fight against the black pill chatters. Dooming mindsets destroy progress. I know. It's so crazy. When there is, we're watching something that is unbelievable. happening in front of our eyes. 65-year-old Michigan Democratic Party, like diehard blue no matter who voters booed the fucking establishment pick. And there are still chatters who are exhibiting doomerism, saying, no, there's a Goldilocks candidate. Oh, no, there's a Warrenite in this race, and she's going to sweep away all the votes. Yeah, with that attitude, you might as well fucking go vote for her. You might as well go fucking door knock for her then. The fuck's wrong with you? The momentum is on our side. It is up to us to show the distinction between someone who is trying to position themselves, not because they held true beliefs, not because they have a moral compass, but because they think this is the most electable position that they can arrive at. Okay? You do talk about viability a lot. Yeah. And guess what? Viability is on the side of the leftmost position. If that wasn't the case, then Mallory McMorrow would also demonstrate exactly the same politics of Haley Stevens. There is a reason why she's literally trying to copy Abdul's positions and like trying to moderate them. Hello? My argument is electoral viability is on the side of the left flank candidates. I could say the same to you about a third party. Oh my God, just fucking eat a week-long ban, okay? Eat a week-long ban and just never talk again, okay? Brother, you live in delusion. I live in the real world, okay? Stop. Stop. Jesus fucking Christ, stop. Unfucking believable, man. Unfucking believable. Shut the fuck up. Fighting for ballot access in every fucking race is an unbelievable burden that you will not be able to fucking get across. If Zoran was running third party, he would not be the current mayor of New York. Okay? He wouldn't. You know who would be the mayor of New York? Brad fucking Lander. Shut the fuck up. In spite of the appetite for more from the base, Democrats are already trying to treat left flank candidates like third party candidates out here, and you're over here making the argument for them.
Work has been defined by putting up my hand for Michigan in tough moments. That is exactly what I did for Michigan when I served as Chief of Staff on the U.S. Auto Rescue alongside the great men.
Yeah. Michigan Senator Mallory McMorrow, who's running for Michigan's open U.S. Senate seat, just finished speaking and immediately chance of Abdul breakout. This was a response from the crowd when Abdul al-Sayed, also a Democratic U.S. Senate candidate, took stage. Again, look at that crowd, man. That's not a crowd of Hasanabi heads, okay? Maybe future Hasanabi heads, but not current Hasanabi heads. Dem strategist from Michigan has a good tweet for the Doomers. These are centrist/moderate positions in the Democratic Party, and anyone saying different is deeply misunderstanding the moment. I'm at the Michigan Democratic Party convention in Detroit, and Abdul al-Sayed is objectively running away with this race. Positions like abolish ICE, Medicare for all, no APAC money, and no more wars has got this crowd on fire. The people have woken up. Strong majorities, if not super majorities, support Medicare for all, believe we should abolish ICE, hate APAC, and want an end to endless wars. And independents are with us. And the message is so compelling that we are able to drive contrast and persuade more efficiently than we have ever been able to in ages. Lock in. I see a huge difference on social media. Normies are posting anti-establishment Dem posts and even pro-worker and borderline communist talking points without realizing it. There's definitely been a shift. Yeah, the real shift is happening. But the unfortunate reality is that a lot of people treat politics either as team sport, those are the centrists, or hipster-ass, gate-kept ideologies, and those are the fucking hammer and sickle leftists on Twitter. They get mad when the Barbaras and Deborahs are on their side. They think, oh my God, I must be doing something wrong if all of these like normie Democrats, vote blue no matter who Democrats, are actually on board with this message. It's so weird. Some of you motherfuckers are lifestylists, okay? You think mass politics doesn't actually mean the masses are on your side, okay? You gotta, in many instances, go where the masses are and communicate with them with the language that they understand. Being repulsive doesn't make your position more moral. Having broad popularity doesn't make your position less just. It's so strange. I see both of these things and it's very frustrating, okay? It's good to have the masses on your fucking side. Bro, you said you weren't going to punch left. I mean, sometimes I have to whip the fucking crowd a little bit. Some people literally treat this as like a game of a game of being there before everybody else, where they're like, well, I was there before everybody else was, and now I feel like it's just fake. Anyway, this is supposed to be about waking up the revolutionary potential of the masses. Okay? The masses, not just you and your fucking reading group. When you see people exhibit this anger, this frustration, understand that that is productive for us, okay? Move that anger and frustration that many people in the base of the party are experiencing in a more productive direction. Help them understand who is responsible. This is how you instill class consciousness in people. They already have that anger. It's up to us to harness that anger and frustration and redirect that animosity towards those who actually do control the levers of power in this country and around the world. Republicans do this very well, okay? They take that anger and then they redirect it at vulnerable populations. They redirect it at trans people. They redirect it at undocumented migrants. They redirect it at feminism. Some of you see that anger, okay, or many of you don't even recognize it, in my opinion. But some of you see that anger and frustration and go, it's not enough. It's so frustrating, man. Being a part of a popular movement is not a bad thing. It's a good thing. That's the whole point. Some of you don't know. Some of you don't know how to handle that with grace. I'll be real. Some of you also think it's immoral. If the masses are on our side, that must mean that these are, that must mean I have to reconsider my positions. We're in a very unique place in American politics, by my estimation. Okay? A very unique place. It's very productive. But it's only as productive as we make it. If we take advantage of this and we move the party in a much better direction, then you normalize certain positions. It takes time. You normalize certain positions, and then people can demand more. El Sayed is speaking to a sea of supporters now. His campaign brought out the most supporters of any of his Democratic Senate opponents. I've seen more people wearing pins and shirts for Mallory McMorrow than for Haley Stevens.
If we get sick, then they're not going to ask us how much we can pay to get the health care that we need and deserve.
This left gatekeeping always sounds like American individualism infecting the left. No, it's like British lifestylists also behave like this. It is a classic issue with the left. There are always going to be lifestylists who look at mass politics with like disdain or sometimes even disgust, where they think, oh, like now that there's all these people that I consider to be not well read enough on my side, seemingly, that means I haven't gone far enough. That means I'm wrong. Hassan, I'm a newer subscriber, but this is the realest shit I've seen any leftist talk about in person or online. There's a real problem on the left where folks want to recreate exclusivity of other political groups. Yeah, it's like elitist bullshit. People treat politics like it's a fucking game. It's the same exact manifestation of the annoying position that a lot of centrists hold, which is it's team sports, right? It's not about making material change. It's just my team winning over the other side's team winning. It doesn't make any sense. And then you have people who treat it like it's a nonsensical hipster bullshit. Anyway, I mean, this gives me a lot of hope, though. This gives me a lot of hope. Coming into this, I thought that McMorrow would probably sweep the Blue Dogs, the vote blue no matter whoers, right? But perhaps they too want something more. That's a good thing. Politics as a game is what conservatives do. This isn't just about winning and losing. It's about what's right and justice and equity. Yeah, but you can't arrive at justice and equity if you don't seize any power whatsoever. Let's be real. So when there's an opportunity to fucking seize power in one of the two major parties and move one of the two major parties in the better direction, like how are you gonna sit there and just like brush that aside? For far too long, something that I have observed amongst the most locked in Democratic electorate is this attitude that you're supposed to vote like a consultant. For far too long, Democrats themselves have said the classic adage, I like this person, but can they win in the general? Okay? What the fuck do you mean? You're not a pundit. You're not a consultant. You're a voter. You're supposed to vote for who you like the most, not who you think other people will like the most. We have been conditioned into talking ourselves out of voting for who we want, for policies that we want, for far too long. This is exactly what happened with Bernie in 2016 and also in 2020 as well. No more. No more. Does it ever feel demoralizing seeing non-American leftists trying to disparage American leftists online? I know it's not really that deep. I don't really care. This is also an international movement as well, and there are plenty who are sound and plenty who understand the minutia and the hurdles that the American left is presented with regular frequency. Ultimately, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, Alex, I'm just going to read to you.
Anyway, let's get to now that we went through this, and I'll give you more updates throughout the day with the Michigan Democratic Party. Okay, but it does matter. What is this? It's mattering. Who do you like? Who do you love the most? Who are you not? Who you aren't? Wait, what? Okay. Donald Trump. Let's get situation monitoring for a little bit. Not monitoring the situation at the Michigan Democratic Party, but monitoring the situation in the Strait of Hormuz. The most important 21-mile strait that the entire world is locked in on. Okay? Now, there was supposed to be a ceasefire that was being worked on. J.D. Vance went to Islamabad with the American coalition, and they came back out of that with some disagreements and some points of agreement. And it was supposed to be a move in the right direction, that the Strait of Hormuz would be open for business again with, some tolling restrictions that Iran had implemented, and the American blockade was supposed to end. But the problem is, and I see this more often than not by a lot of analysts that have identified the problem with Trump's side on this issue, is that Trump automatically considers any negotiation to be a point of weakness for the opposition. Trump has been begging for a negotiation to take place since like week 2 of Operation Epstein's Fury. But the very fact that Iran said yes to that negotiation in Islamabad, Trump misunderstood as weakness. Although Iran obviously still holds the cards because of the situation on the ground, Donald Trump looked at Iran's willingness to come to the fucking ceasefire negotiations table as a point of weakness, and tried to tweet out maximalist demands, which frustrated Iran deeply. And not only did he tweet out maximalist demands that were not discussed on the bargaining table in the negotiations process, but also he continued to implement this blockade outside of the Iranian toll system. rendering the negotiations fruitless. This was obviously very frustrating for the Iranian side, who thought that they had a fucking deal. And since then, some new updates have taken place.
We are back.
One of the updates is that seemingly the American Navy has taken an Iranian flag cargo ship into custody after it tried to go through the American blockade. Okay, so there is a reality taking shape in the Strait of Hormuz, and then there's a reality in Trump's mind, which is chaotic and not exactly close to what the realities on the ground are. But this is the latest update. Iran warns of significantly greater costs if war resumes from Dropsite News. A senior Iranian official with direct access to Tehran's internal deliberations told Dropsite that if Trump resumes bombing, Iran will cut off all diplomatic channels and focus entirely on fighting, and that conditions for any future deal will be far harder. He also told Dropsite, our assessment is that Trump effectively lacks both a coherent plan and the capacity to secure even a temporary agreement. His decision-making appears to be grounded in Israeli political and security assessments conveyed to him on a daily basis. There hasn't been any real progress. Both sides are just signaling behind the scenes that they're open to reaching an agreement. The Islamabad negotiations provide President Trump with an appropriate opportunity to exit the war. Should he nevertheless choose to continue the conflict, Iran will, for a prolonged period, suspend diplomatic channels and will seek, within the context of the conflict, to impose significantly greater costs on United States interests. The official also specified that Iran is offering, on enrichment, a voluntary suspension for less than 5 years, an offer that originated in Geneva before the war, put forward solely to demonstrate goodwill and the necessary degree of flexibility. On the Iran uranium stockpile, Iran rejected transferring its highly enriched uranium to the U.S., but is offering to dilute it with a transparent mechanism to fully verify the process. On the broader nuclear framework, low-level enrichment for peaceful purposes centered on medical research and energy applications with full transparency. On the overall deal, Iran wants a comprehensive agreement that includes firm non-aggression guarantees from both the U.S. and Israel, a demand the official acknowledged seems nearly impossible to guarantee, plus sanctions relief and a long-term framework. The official stressed these are essentially the same positions Iran had on the table in Geneva in February before the war started, suggesting that the war achieved nothing for Washington that wasn't already available diplomatically. Iran is also in parallel talks with friendly nations, including nuclear powers, aimed at establishing a balance of power with the United States and Israel, the official said. The reference to nuclear powers points towards Russia and China, both of which have opposed the U.S.-Israeli war and voted against Washington's UN Security Council resolution on the conflict. So that's where Iran is at right now. They are warning that they are ready to go back to a militant posture against the United States of America if America strikes first. If you recall, this wasn't exactly a favorable posture for America and its allies in the region, which is precisely the reason why America was begging for a negotiations process to take place in Islamabad after pretty much week 2. So what's insane about this situation is Trump, on the one hand, recognizes the need for a diplomatic end to this war. But on the other hand, anytime the Iranian side agrees to a diplomatic end to this war, Trump perceives that as fucking weakness. You cannot keep violating the international law, says Reza Amiri Moghadam, the ambassador of the Islamic Republic of Iran to Pakistan, one of the people who played a role in setting up these talks. He says, you cannot keep violating the international law, double down on your blockade, threaten Iran with further war crimes, insist on unreasonable demands, pace out with rhetorics, and pretend to be pursuing diplomacy. As long as the naval blockade remains, fault lines remain. Donald Trump has now taken more aggressive military action against Iran. Let's take a look.
With some breaking news, this thanks to the president having posted on Truth Social that there was some activity relative to the U.S. blockade there in the Strait of Hormuz. Apparently, a U.S. Navy ship has commandeered an Iranian ship. Akayla, what do you know about this?
Yeah, Alex, I'm just going to read to you some of the president's True Social. He says, today an Iranian-flagged cargo ship named Tusaka, nearly 900 feet long and weighing almost as much as an aircraft carrier, tried to get past our naval blockade, and it did not go well for them. He says the U.S. Navy guided missile destroyer actually intercepted that ship in the Gulf of Oman and gave them a fair warning to stop. He goes on to say the Iranian crew refused to listen, so our Navy ship stopped them right in their tracks by blowing a hole in their engine room. Right now, U.S. Marines have custody of the vessel, he says, and the ship is under U.S. Treasury sanctions, he's claiming, because of their prior history of illegal activity. And he says we have full custody of the ship. And I want to say that the U.S. military has largely talked about some of these tactics that they intend to either board ships or fire at them. That seems to have been the case here with this ship, Tosaka. But there have been some reports that some vessels linked to Iran have been able to get past this blockade undetected. We have not independently verified those reports, but President Trump certainly touting here the continuation of this blockade, which has caused such tension with Iran after they sought to reopen the strait, but President Trump promised to keep this blockade going. Alex?
And in fact, to your point, as you've read, the ship is now in custody of U.S. Marines after the U.S. blew a hole in the engine room. Okay, we will see as more comes from this. Thank you so much for updating us from the White House, Kayla Gardner.
Since then, Trump has also threatened to blow up the entire country, and is posturing as though he doesn't want any negotiations whatsoever. Now, what's interesting about this is that is the Israeli position. But what's also doubly interesting about that is that whenever Trump talks about blowing up Iran and like ending Iranian civilization, well, oftentimes that means he really wants to do a negotiation, right? That's just like the Trumpian method. The Trump method is saying the most unhinged thing possible and then behind closed doors try to come to the table with a negotiations process. I mean, that's literally what has happened every single time. The other Trump method, of course, is also to do negotiations and then engage in the act of perfidy. Iran's IRNA says Iran rejected taking part in the second round of the talks with the U.S. Iran stated that its absence from the second round of talks stems from what it's called Washington's excessive demands, unrealistic expectations, constant shifts in stance, repeated contradictions, and ongoing naval blockade, which it considers a breach of the ceasefire. This, again, stems from the fact that Donald Trump is inconsistent and also doesn't make any fucking sense whatsoever, which is, I guess, a part of his method here. But it's frustrating when it's not just his statements that don't make any sense, but it's his actions that also don't make any sense. Statements alone would not sully this deal. Okay? What is actually harming the negotiations process is two things. One, Trump's willingness to obviously lean into whatever the fuck Benjamin Netanyahu's demands are, which is obviously to destroy this deal and then destroy Iran, get America to invade Iran militarily, boots on the ground military warfare. But the other problem here is also Trump is still abiding by the ridiculous conditions that he set forward and not scaling back on that, which includes the double block that they are trying to engage in. CENTCOM publishes video of them firing the guided missile destroyer USS Spruance 5-inch MK-45 gun into Tuska's engine room after it failed to comply with the repeated warnings over a 6-hour period.
Motor Vessel Toska, vacate your engine room. Vacate your engine room. We're prepared to subject you to disabling fire.
I like that they were acting like they were frustrated when Iran was doing this shit. They were like, this is illegal. How dare Iran do stuff like this? And now they're doing the exact same shit. Muslims are terrorists and deserve everything that happens to them, says Jan 501737. I like that we were just watching the Americans engage in the same things that these guys will freak out when Muslims do, right? Breaking: Iranian forces thwarted U.S. attempt to attack Iranian commercial ship, Iranian state-linked media says. We just watched the video, yes. So, U.S. Navy fires on Iranian cargo ship in the Gulf of Oman. There are competing accounts, says Dropsite. The U.S. and Iran are offering conflicting accounts of an incident Sunday involving an Iranian vessel in the Gulf of Oman as the ceasefire teeters on the edge of collapse. President Trump said the USS Spruance intercepted the Iranian-flagged cargo ship Tuska, nearly 900 feet long, after it attempted to breach the U.S. naval blockade. He said the Iranian crew refused orders to stop, so that the Navy blew a hole in its engine room. U.S. Marines have taken custody of the vessel, Trump said, adding to the Tuska is under U.S. Treasury sanctions for prior illegal activity. Iran's Mehr news agency reported it differently. IRGC Navy Rapid Reaction Forces responded to U.S. forces opening fire on the Iranian commercial ship and said that American forces were forced to retreat and flee the area following the IRGC response. Iran did not name the commercial vessel. The incident, okay, this probably means that the American story is closer to the, is closer to the truth. The incident comes as 2-week ceasefire expires Tuesday, and a second round of talks remains unconfirmed. Iran has said it will not negotiate while the naval blockade remains in place. The U.S. has said the blockade will continue regardless. Yes, if America already has control over the boat, it's over. Then the Iranian side is not correct. But then again, they're just showing only video footage of us shooting at the vessel and not of us maintaining control over the vessel. So who knows? And maybe the Iranians are talking about a separate vessel. So we have here, we'll look at...
Here's one we did earlier.
Trump, and then we'll look at what the actual principal negotiators and their maximalist demands look like. Israel.
And showcasing how it's turned a shipping lane into a marina. Iranian TV broadcasting tankers halted in the Straits of Hormuz as radio traffic emerges of an Indian tanker attacked yesterday by Iranian forces.
Navy, this is Motor Engafsan Marhedar. You gave me clearance to go. My name second on your list. You gave me clearance to go. You are firing now. Let me turn back.
That action causing Trump to repeat his previous threat to Iran to bow to his peace demands. If they don't, the United States is going to knock out every single power plant and every single bridge in Iran. No more Mr. Nice Guy. An old threat, of course, so far an empty one. It would also likely be a war crime of enormous proportions. A former Israeli military intelligence specialist on Iran says America doesn't begin to understand the country. Iran will not cave in and indeed is emerging ever stronger in all this.
They cope with the two strongest air forces in the world, and they managed to overcome. For them, it was winning but not losing. They still have the capacity to launch missiles and drones even today. They still hold the 440 kilos or 60% enriched uranium in Natanz and Isfahan. They still have the capacity to control the straits and actually control the artery of the international economy. So for them, yes, they suffered. They know they suffered. They're not stupid. But in terms strategically, they have the upper hand.
So, suits on for Vance, Witkoff and team, the US Vice President leading another delegation to Pakistan tomorrow for talks. But who with? Iran saying tonight they won't go whilst Trump is blockading their shipping.
Our policy is also step by step. Action, commitment for commitment. They take one step, we take one step. It should not be the case that we fulfill our commitments while they do not.
Well, at least both sides are still communicating behind the scenes, leaving their bosses to do the posture and threat thing that both do so well. It all leaves Israel's Prime Minister looking friendless abroad, beleaguered at home. Tel Aviv last night and thousands out demanding a full inquiry into the Hamas invasion of October the 7th. Netanyahu, the clear target in all that. Up north today, anger at Israel's leaders of a different sort. The border town Kiryat Shimona in a shut-down protest at Netanyahu bowing to Trump's order to stop attacking Lebanon close by. And over that border, caught as ever in it all, Lebanese families slowly going home to the south. Very slowly, after Israel bombed bridges. And what will they find when they get home? A house or a pile of rubble? Yes, the Iranians then announced in the last hour they're not going to those talks. Fed up, they say, and indicate with the mixed messaging they see coming from the White House and President Trump. Well, when you look at it, President Trump has tried violent and abusive language to persuade the Iranians the deal. Didn't work. He's tried to compliment them. Didn't work. He's tried to...
Who fucking cares about October 7th? Buddy, those people that are demanding an investigation to October 7 are some of the most consequential voters in Israel right now. They're not demanding an investigation into October 7 because they're like, oh, Benjamin Netanyahu didn't go hard enough. They're demanding an investigation into the, for example, the Hannibal Doctrine that was implemented and what the security flaws look like. How much did the Benjamin Netanyahu cabinet know ahead of time before October 7 took place, and whether they allowed it to happen or not. Okay? That's not a bad thing at all. That's a good thing. And there should be more demands. Some of you motherfuckers literally see a good thing happening and just immediately cast it aside. It's good. It's good that they're demanding that. And also, the protesters are frustrated with the Netanyahu cabinet's actions in general. They're not demanding more militant action.
To threaten what certainly looked like an out-and-out genocide. It didn't work. He's tried today to threaten what certainly appears in the minds of many to constitute a war crime if it happened. It did not work. Then step back. This isn't really primarily about Iran, Straits of Hormuz, their search for a bomb. It's about the Palestinian question. And on that, we've seen the Israeli state with its American ally get involved in serious conflict in not one, not two, not three, but 4 regions. 5 if you include the West Bank. Why? To destroy Hamas. They've failed. To destroy Hezbollah. They failed. And to destroy the Iranian regime. They have failed. That regime in Tehran, yes, is violent and it is repressive. But tonight, with all that, you understand why they're perhaps thinking they've got quite a lot in the tank when it comes to...
We are back with the Fox News Alert. Chief Foreign Correspondent Trey Inks just speaking with President Trump and has the latest from Tel Aviv. Trey, what can you tell us and what did the president have to say?
Yeah, guys, good morning. I just spoke with President Trump for about 20 minutes, and he told me if Iran...
Holy shit, Trey got 20 minutes with the president? That's crazy. That's actually wild, man. He normally gives like, what, 2 minutes max? Here, this assessment is important to also look at from Trita Parsi, okay? Trita Parsi, speaking to several people involved in all sides, I believe I've gotten to the bottom of the story about Pezeshkian's video message and how Trump blew up a golden opportunity to de-escalate the war. Here's what happened. Regional efforts at de-escalation in the war had convinced Iran to gradually adjust its regional retaliation conduct. In a first step, the Iranian president, as the head of the Interim Leadership Council, announced that attacks on neighboring countries would cease as long as their territories wouldn't be used to attack Iran. This is why Pezeshkian issued that video statement, although he went further in a statement, but that's another matter. This is from March 7th. Hold on. Where's the other video? 1 second. Or not video. I clicked on the wrong link. This is what I was going to look at. He quote retweeted, Trita quote retweeted his own tweet. Okay. Here, this is what I was looking at. To understand how Trump is undermining his own diplomacy by quickly declaring victory and trying to humiliate Iran whenever Tehran takes a de-escalatory step, it is instructive to remember what happened when Iran and the GCC had negotiated new guardrails for the war. So the reason why I was looking at the other post is because it shows how Trump sees any kind of de-escalation from the Iranian side. Trump looks at Iran behaving as a sane regional actor and listening to the demands being made by the GCC, for example, as a sign of weakness. Okay? This is his calculation. Oh, they're retreating on this stuff. That means they're retreating because they're afraid. They're not retreating because they are behaving like a sovereign regional actor, listening to the demands being made by their neighbors. Okay? but instead, as a nation in retreat, terrified of the prospect of the might of American weapons destroying its infrastructure. In short, Iran and the GCC were in the process of agreeing to a deal that would see the end of Iranian attacks on the GCC as long as their territory ceased being used for attacks on Iran. Tehran would first message taking steps in this direction, followed by GCC's reciprocity. But before the GCC got a chance to respond, Trump declared victory on Truth Social, insulted and humiliated Iran, and even issued further threats of complete destruction. On top of that, U.S. and Israel also attacked water desalination plant at Keshem Island. Needless to say, this sabotaged the sensitive de-escalation talks, and a promising opening was destroyed. Trump's need for the optics of victory trumps what should be a far more important goal, advancing U.S. interests by ending this war and reaching a longer-term deal with Tehran. Okay? It appears that this same phenomenon occurred in the past few days when the Iranians, in a very vague tweet, declared that the strait is open as a de-escalatory step. In their terminology, it has never been closed, though Tehran is only determining who can pass and who cannot while charging tolls. Trump failed to reciprocate and instead could not resist the temptation to declare victory and insult the Iranians. What was designed to become the beginning of a mutual off-ramp was instead turned by Trump into an escalatory ladder, resulting in additional threats by him this morning to knock out every single power plant, every single bridge in Iran. Trump's lack of discipline and focus and his infantile prioritization of optics over reality are becoming a significant obstacle to him achieving his own goals, exiting the war and striking a strong deal with Tehran. This is not art of the deal. This is the art of self-sabotage, says Trita. The part that Trita is not mentioning, in my opinion, is that this suits the ultimate desires of Israel as well. Okay? That is the real issue here. Trump gets to behave in this inconsistent manner, and he gets to behave victory, and he gets to just be more belligerent and escalate, while simultaneously people in his orbit are actively reading the room and trying to de-escalate. Trump does this kind of thing because it suits Benjamin Netanyahu's goals. Decisions, David Klein says, decisions Israel made are quite clear, directly the reason why people around the world are paying more for food and for fuel, and everyone can see that, and everyone's mad about it. It's going to have lasting effects. He's talking to the deputy digital director of Bulwark Online, who is complaining about, the relationship between Israel and the Democrats and yada, 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 right? To which Matthew Petty responds, this future was clear as day to me by 2019 or 2020, the U.S. being physically incapable of saying no to Israeli ambitions meant that they were going to become everyone's problem at some point, and even the specific route, Iran war, was advertised quite loudly. The United States of America is openly saying Israel is bringing us into this, and we are waging this war for Israel, and we're continuing to destabilize for Israel as the rest of the world experiences inflationary shocks, experiences an energy crisis. What do you think this is going to do to American soft power and American influence around the globe? And what do you think this will do to the influence of Israel and the way that people perceive Israel around the world? That is a major problem that neither America nor Israel is invested in facing, okay? This goes back to the same mentality. This goes back to the same frustrating reality that I have observed. 800 military bases turning into 800 separate military invasions, okay? It's that simple. But let's take a look at what Trump's assessment is currently.
Does not sign this deal, the whole country is getting blown up. He went on to say that bridges and power plants will be targeted if Iran does not sign this agreement. The president telling me that U.S. Special Envoys Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff are heading to Islamabad, Pakistan for meetings on Tuesday, possibly into Wednesday, to try and get this agreement across the finish line. The president telling Fox News this is a very simple deal. but this is the last chance for the Iranians. The president very clear in our conversation that he is not making the same mistake that President Obama made, giving cash to the Iranians and allowing them to continue a nuclear program. The deal on the table is...
It's literally, I mean, I don't have an issue with unfreezing Iranian assets and sanctions relief. I think that's the just thing to do. That's the moral thing to do. But from Trump's perspective, this is a far, far more beneficial deal for the Iranian side than Barack Obama ever entertained. Larger amounts of dollars are being discussed to the tune of $20 billion, right? Which is a fraction of the $100 billion that we have frozen, but still a far larger percentage of the overall assets that were frozen by the United States of America than Barack Obama did, okay? So... and Joe Biden as well. Barack Obama was what? 1.7 billion. Joe Biden, 6 billion. Trump is talking about $20 billion. You know, if you're going to call one cold, hard cash in ballots being shipped over to Iran, well, then this is a much larger chunk of that cold, hard green cash being shipped over in pallets to Iran.
To reopen the Strait of Hormuz to ensure that the Iranians do not have this highly enriched uranium that is buried deep underground after Operation Midnight Hammer last summer. And again, the president telling Fox News that the entire country will be blown up. Bridges and power plants will be targeted if the Iranians do not sign this agreement. This is a significant development because we are in this less than 72-hour window before the ceasefire between the United States and Iran expires. And the president has given the Iranians an opportunity for an off-ramp, an olive branch he is extending to the Iranian regime to avoid this region going back into war. And the president said the United States military is prepared. He said the U.S. has massive amounts of ammunition, even better munitions than they had in the opening days of Operation Epic Fury, to use against the Iranian regime, to target a variety of different positions across their country if they are not willing to make this good faith deal.
How?
And again, he tells Fox...
How is that possible? Did they rebuild the arsenal with what, with what resources, with what runway? We know how long it takes. This is just, again, cope.
News that his special envoys are headed to the Middle East, and they are going to try and get this deal across the finish line. But this is in the hands of the Iranians if they are willing to make a good faith agreement. And if they are not, the president has indicated there will be significant strikes against the Iranian regime in response if this diplomatic effort does not succeed. Guys?
Trey, in your conversation with the president, it hasn't been talked much about lately, but there has been focus on Karg Island because of its strategic proximity to 90% of the crude oil goes through there. Did the president raise, I know he's talked to you about bridges and power plants, but what about the oil infrastructure?
It takes weeks to reload missile cruisers. I mean, we're not even talking about reloading the missile cruisers. We're talking about rebuilding the missile stockpile. That takes years at times, especially if we're talking about standoff munitions that take a long ass time to make. We're talking about, in certain instances, with the current capabilities of U.S. procurement, 12 per year for like the THAADs, right? That is, you're not going to be able to make up for that that diminished stockpile in a matter of 1 week. It's just not going to happen.
Structure.
The president talked about the Strait of Hormuz and these violations of the ceasefire that were conducted by the Iranians yesterday. President Trump telling me about how...
Can you explain what unfrozen assets are? Sorry, I asked that already, but it was right as you got up. Yes. So Iran, like any other country, like an oil-rich country, sells oil and gas to other countries, right? Other countries that are under the control of U.S. empire. Countries like Korea, or even in certain instances like Qatar and many other places, right? So what America does after that shipment is cleared, after the money is supposed to exchange hands, is America will tell those other countries like Korea or Taiwan or many other places to freeze those assets. So that money never exchanges hands. That money is taken out of the bank accounts of South Korea, for example. And before that money makes its way to the Iranian bank accounts, it's frozen. America is currently sitting on, tens of billions, if not $100 billion worth of money that was supposed to be sent to Iranian bank accounts. Okay? So when the American government says we're unfreezing these assets, what they're basically saying is they're no longer stopping the transfer of these assets that they have currently frozen.
They're using these small vessels to fire on ships in the Strait of Hormuz, but they're just using small ammunition. And despite the fact that they're not doing much damage, it's an indication that they are violating the ceasefire. And then the question...
Yes, technically, the money is Iranian money, okay? The money is supposed to be in the hands of the Iranian government. That's all this means. It's just that America has illegally exercised its awesome power around the globe as the hegemon to stop this transaction from being completed. So it's not in the hands of South Korea. It's not in the hands of Iran. The money has not exchanged hands. It's just America has stopped it from being delivered to Iran. America gets to do this because oil is traded on dollars, American dollars. Yes, all that takes place in this situation is oil has been extracted and shipped over to another country. Iran no longer has the oil. America now has frozen the money.
The question is, well, why are they not doing much damage? And that is because more than 150 Iranian vessels are currently at the bottom of the sea. During Operation Epic Fury, the United States hammered the Iranian Navy, and they had prepared for a possible confrontation with the United States, but not enough, because the U.S. was so successful in these strikes that much of the Navy vessels the Iranians had prepared were not able to be used. And that is the reason that they have to use these smaller vessels to threaten international shipping lanes. And again, this speaks to the success of Operation Epic Fury and just the inability of the Iranian regime to even respond and to violate the ceasefire in this manner. And so that is one of the key pillars of this broader agreement that President Trump is demanding the Iranian regime sign. They are going to keep open the Strait of Hormuz. They are going to release that highly enriched uranium that is buried deep underground in the aftermath of those U.S. strikes last summer. And they're going to stop threatening U.S. forces across the region, the president tells me, or the Iranians are going to pay a heavy price. And that price is going to come at their power plants, their bridges, and the remaining infrastructure belonging to the Iranian regime. The president said right now there is a divide between the hardliners and the more moderates within the Iranian political leadership that remains. Remember, in the opening strikes of Operation Epic Fury, the United States and Israel took out the command structure of the Iranian regime. Iran's supreme leader, the Ayatollah Khamenei, was taken out in an airstrike, along with his top advisors. The Iranians were in disarray in these moments after Operation Epic Fury began because they...
Dude, Trey Yingst has become the biggest glazer of the Trump regime. Like, he is one of the most insane propagandists at this point. It is unbelievable how much he eats Trump's penis every time he talks. Okay? It's kind of crazy. Like, pretty much everything he said about the military successes, we all know was a failure. There was no real military goal that was achieved. And it's kind of insane the way he talks about this stuff. I thought you said you liked him. I mean, he's an interesting guy. He has been one of the lone voices that has actually criticized Israel from Israel about its targeting and slaughter of Palestinian journalists. But I guess this is his job here, is to be a stenographer for Trump. Yeah. The Hawks keep saying, we took out Iran's leadership. How could we be doing badly, as if nothing happened since day one of the war? Yeah, it's just, you're not recognizing the events that have unfolded in the last 51 days and instead of the last 52 days. They keep saying over and over again, like, well, we killed Khamenei. We killed the leadership structure. And they were in a state of disarray. They were in a state of panic. It's like, okay, well, their Mosaic defense system was implemented instantly, and they haven't stopped pummeling both the GCC states and also Israel since that began. And they have control over the Strait of Hormuz.
Were hit even harder than anyone in the region believed they were going to be hit. And again, this speaks to the inability of the Iranians to not only defend their top leaders, but also defend their military structure. When we think about the threat Iran posed before Operation Epic Fury began, they were basically trying to get a nuclear weapon. They told negotiators they had enough highly enriched uranium for 11 nuclear bombs. And this was an indication to President Trump something had to be done to stop this regime from obtaining a nuclear weapon. But remember, you have this threat from the Iranians that also includes ballistic missiles and drones. And as part of Operation Epic...
Oh, Trey Inks was promoted the chief foreign correspondent. Maybe that's when he switched up his tune. I don't know. But this is not good reporting at all. This is just being a stenographer for Trump. You're not educating the Fox News viewership in any way, shape, or form. And he's also doubling down on the propaganda side where he's like, oh, Iran says they're weeks away from a nuclear weapon. They never said that. They've said the exact opposite. And they were unbelievably conciliatory to the demands that the American side was making, as not only the Iranian side has repeatedly conceded on those demands, especially as far as like developing a nuclear weapon, but the Omani Omani foreign minister came out on American television and literally said a day before America started its strikes through, once again, perfidy, that the Iranian side was totally willing to abide by the maximalist demands that the American side was making. So like every single thing that he's talking about is not only untrue, but also it directly contradicts observable reality. And it's also a rehashing of events that have already taken place from a totally ridiculous framework, a framework that just makes you believe that whatever Trump is saying is actually correct. Don't look at what's going on in the Strait. Don't look at what has taken place in Israel. Don't look at what's happened in the GCC states, and simply listen to Trump's words and Trump's framing.
Fury, President Trump ordered strikes against the production facilities of the Iranian regime, hammering their ballistic missile production centers and the drone centers.
This is also contradicted by not only additional reporting, but contradicted by the fact that, you know, Iran kept pummeling Israel and GCC states as well. But also there's new New York Times reporting that shows that I believe Iran has approximately 60% of its entire missile silos that are left intact. These strikes did not actually harm their missile launchers in the way that the American and the Israeli side has been claiming. I believe it's 60 or 70% that they still have in their stockpile, and you know, even a larger percentage of their drones as well. So virtually everything he's saying is incorrect.
That were used to target U.S. forces and allies across the Middle East. And now President Trump tells me that bridges and power plants are back on the target list for the United States. And if Iran does...
By the way, they wouldn't be talking about missiles and or they wouldn't be talking about bridges and power plants if they were able to successfully destroy the Iranian missile cities that are deep underground. Okay? That is an admission of defeat. That is perhaps the greatest. Kaya, watch out. That's crazy. She's like standing right underneath me. Oh, what are you doing, lady? I'm gonna accidentally step on you. If they were capable of actually treating Iran's strike capabilities, if they were capable of destroying Iran's missile cities, they wouldn't be talking about bridges and power plants. They wouldn't be talking about hitting civilian targets, right? That is also another admission that they have not been able to accomplish their military goals at all.
Not signed this agreement in Islamabad this coming week. The president will order strikes, he tells me, against power plants and bridges inside of Iran. This will be a major escalation, but the president told me, and he is expected, we also learned in that conversation, to release basically a letter today to the Iranians with this tough talk, letting them know what is at risk for their regime if they do not make a good faith agreement. The president told me this tough talk is the only thing the Iranians understand. They don't understand the traditional diplomacy and dialogue of the region. They understand.
That's so funny. Brother, I've never heard someone be so oppositional to reality. It is literally the exact opposite, man. We are behaving like belligerent actors here. That is crazy. Not only has Iran... Oh my God, Kaya. No. That's crazy, Kaya. That is crazy. She literally was like, oh yeah, you don't want me to stand right behind you so that you can accidentally drive over me with your chair. I'm going to get even closer. But in any case, getting back to what Trey was saying here, or it's just, you know, whatever Trump is saying that Trey is just repeating verbatim. It's insane to make this argument. This entire war started through perfidy when Iran was willing to concede on the American framework on enriched uranium. So it's not only incorrect, but it's incorrect in the most basic ways. It's directly at odds with what we have seen so far in the last 52 days.
Understand firepower, the firepower that belongs to the United States military. And President Trump again told me they have massive amounts of ammunition prepared. If the Iranians are not willing to make that good faith agreement, they are going to hammer the regime, targeting those bridges, power plants, and what is left of the IRGC.
Like saying we are going to target the bridges and the power plants while simultaneously saying Iran doesn't understand like normal diplomatic process that everybody else understands is so funny, because that's not how you do diplomacy. That's not how you do diplomacy at all. It's not only an admission that America has totally failed on achieving any of their fucking military objectives, which is to destroy these missile cities, destroy Iran's striking capabilities and the like, but it's also an admission that we, America, we are not the ones who are abiding by the normal negotiations process.
Military infrastructure.
Trey, you were on our show in an earlier hour before this phone call with the president, and you and I discussed this regime. You say that there's a faction, perhaps a more moderate versus a more radical wing of this regime. We don't know which one is in charge. Maybe you do. Maybe you can let us know. But if the more radical wing is in charge, per our discussion earlier, then that means they're crazy. And that means that this letter and this escalation may not have the results that we want, because they don't care. They're just like, fine, let it all go. This is existential. If, you know, we're going to lose, so let's all just die and go to heaven, I guess, or hell. So did you discuss that with the president in terms of the mental state and the outcomes that the mullahs and the radical wing want?
Yes, and I can tell you, having talked to the president multiple times throughout this war and prior to this conflict, the president understands exactly who he's dealing with here. These are not traditional negotiators on the other side of the table. This is not a traditional regime. Even on our call today, President Trump brought up the protesters who were slaughtered in the streets of their country earlier this year. And the president multiple times said he would be there for them. And he targeted, actually, during Operation Epic Fury, many of the besieged force commanders and those responsible for the crackdown against Iranian demonstrators who were peacefully protesting in the streets of their country. But again, I think the fact the president continues to bring this up, he understands two things. He understands the Iranian population, more than 90 million people, and many of them are quietly supporting what President Trump is doing, pressuring a repressive regime that spent 47 years cracking down on their own people. But he also understands the negotiators, and he understands the break in who's actually calling the shots here. And it's a great question, because even the Iranians are not clear on who is calling the shots. And while you have this divide between the hardliners and the more moderates, even the Iranians can't agree on their own position. We heard Iran's foreign minister late last week saying the Strait of Hormuz is open, and then IRGC commanders saying it's closed, and then yesterday firing on these vessels trying to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. And again, this speaks to the successful U.S. strikes against the regime and the command structure of the IRGC. But as it relates to who is at the negotiating table now, the takeaways that I had from this 20-minute call with President Trump were quite clear. It doesn't matter to President Trump who is calling the shots in Iran right now. What matters is that they signed this agreement. And the president said if they do not sign the agreement, he is going to target Iranian power plants and bridges. He is going to increase the strikes against the IRGC and go after the core that remains within Iran. Because he told me this is a very simple agreement. It can be done in 10 minutes. They know what is on the table. All they have to do is...
Yeah. It kind of feels like we're going back to war. I mean, this is... I mean, I guess the only thing you can expect here is that Trump is inconsistent and his posture when he's on the phone or his posture when he's tweeting is entirely different than like what will end up taking shape on the battleground. But the key thing to remember is Trump is incredibly responsive to the markets. And the whole point of why America wanted Iran to come to the negotiations was because of the markets. Iran came to the negotiations table and the markets responded very positively to it. Trump likes that. It doesn't make any sense that they would just double down, triple down. I'm not exactly certain to, not exactly sure how this is going to be reflected on in a couple hours. Sunday after all. But Iran, Asina Tusi says, Iran closes Hormuz, Trump ignores it, then beseeches allies, then threatens and unleashes profanity-laced insults, then blockades it himself. Iran says it'll open after Lebanon ceasefire, only for Trump to double down on his blockade. Now it's closed again. Strategic incoherence. The whole point of this was to pry open the Strait of Hormuz because they can't do this militarily. Yeah, futures market in 20 minutes. So we'll see. 19 minutes. We'll see how Trump starts talking when that takes shape. But the situation is as follows. If the Strait of Hormuz is closed still, as it is currently, and the markets are not going to react positively to it, price of the barrels or oil futures are going to go up again. Barack Ravid says, here's the real beneficiaries of the deal. Here's the real principal negotiators. President Trump told me in a brief phone call that he is still optimistic about the upcoming round of negotiations with Iran and about the chance to reach the deal. But the Iranians believe that Trump's optimistic statements are a deception and a cover for a surprise American attack. I feel good about this. The concept of the deal is already closed. I think we have a very good chance to complete this, Trump told me in a brief conversation. The Iranians, on the other hand, are lowering expectations and even claiming there is no negotiation round with the U.S. this week. Iranian officials suspect that the U.S. might attack them even before the end of the ceasefire on Tuesday night. There are several signs indicating that the Iranian paranoia is justified. The sensitive security discussion that Trump convened in the White House Situation Room today, Sunday, the reinforcement the U.S. military continues to pour into the Middle East, and the fact that so far it hasn't been announced when Vice President Vance is supposed to go to Pakistan. The Trump administration, you started this war. If we run short of USDs as a result of it, either you will give us the USD swap lines, or we will be forced to start transacting oil and gas in CNY and other currencies. This is from the Wall Street Journal just now. Now, the UAE is the most pliant to Israeli demands. It's basically an extension of Israel, right? The United Arab Emirates. So if they're talking about Chinese yuan, okay, that's a fairly large threat, okay? This is the dynamic taking shape in the region that I was talking about from basically week 2 of Operation Epstein's Fury. The idea that, like, there's only so much punishment that these guys will abide by until they realize that maybe it's time for a different state that they will lean into for real stability. Yeah. Prominent Emirati commentator Abdul Khaled Abdullah says it's time to think about closing U.S. bases, calling them a burden. Remember all those journals briefed by Emirati officials last month to be like, Iran has really messed up this time. The Gulf states will never let go now. Yeah. Now, this is nothing but a leak. Okay, this doesn't mean that they're actually going to follow through on this promise, right? Never underestimate the Emiratis' willingness to be servile to Western interests, okay? Trust me. If there's one thing you can fucking bet the house on, it's that the Emiratis will still be loyal servants to the Western interests, specifically to Israel, no matter how hard they flip their phones. But this is a direct, direct line of attack against American interests in the region, and the reason why it's being communicated through Western press is because they're saying, look, enough is enough. If you're reading this coming from any Emirati whatsoever, any commentator whatsoever, that means that the UAE wants Americans to hear this, okay? They want Americans to hear this publicly. Islamabad and Tehran, differences in negotiation. There's a fundamental, Vali Nasser, Araghchi's tweet reflected an understanding in Tehran, likely based on what they heard from Pakistan, that if they took a positive step by opening the Strait of Hormuz, U.S. would reciprocate by lifting the blockade. But Trump kept the blockade in place and through his many tweets suggested that Iran was surrendering on the nuclear issue. This has only fed Iranian suspicions about Trump and that Islamabad, like Geneva, is a diplomatic ruse before another military attack. The door to diplomacy is not closed, but it has now become considerably more difficult. Deliberately or not, Trump has undermined diplomacy and raised the likelihood of more war, right? There is a fundamental divergence of worldviews between Islamabad and Tehran that will eventually be the reason for a communication gap between the two. Islamabad believes that DC has to be fooled to get your way. Tehran believes DC has to be convinced by power of logic. Since 79, Tehran hasn't done much to fool DC, and since 79, all Islamabad has done is fool DC. These are two basically different approaches to foreign policy, and Islamabad thinks its way is the better way. Islamabad thinks its way is better because it has shown results again and again. The slow-moving, seemingly dumb Vogonic, I've never heard that word before, DC admin will always let itself be fooled by happily for short-term political gains, and Pakistan feeds them that. Can you really argue with this strategy? Yeah, I think the Iranian side is correct. And it doesn't really matter what Islamabad says. It doesn't really even matter what the moderates say. You want to know why? Because those who control the weapons are the ones who are making these decisions at the end of the day. And those who control the weapons are the hardliners. It's the IRGC. And their assessment is most likely the true assessment, the correct assessment, which is that America, until it withstands enough economic damage, enough economic punishment, enough of a military deterrence, America will not learn a valuable lesson here. A valuable lesson that Iran has to be reckoned with as a sovereign state, and that you have to have normal talks with Iran as you would any other country, as you would with another country that you respect. The only country that America respects, unfortunately for Iran, is the nation state of Israel. So that's it. And the only way to change this dynamic, as I've said over and over again, is if there is sufficient pressure being applied to Washington, D.C. by allies, whether it be European allies, Asian allies, Latin American allies if necessary, and also capital owners in general. They need to be making boss call after boss call. But the problem with capital owners and all of these other European allies is that, well, capital owners are, are much more independent and can make those conversations happen, can actually communicate their desires to the Trump administration, but they're probably being duped a little bit themselves by the fact that there is no more bombing, right? And as far as the European allies or the regional allies, whether it be the GCC or not, they are too afraid to say anything to America. They can't say anything to America whatsoever. So we just continue on the same trajectory that we've been on. Huh? Any gaming today? Potentially, yes.
Sign the dotted line. And so far, they've been unwilling to do so. And that is why President Trump told me that on Tuesday, U.S. Special Envoys Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff are headed back to the Middle East to try and get this deal across the finish line. And remember what we are looking at here. now we understand. After this conversation with President Trump, I can tell you very clearly, we are looking at option A or option B. Option A is that the Iranians come to the table on Tuesday and they sign a good faith agreement that never allows them to have a nuclear weapon, that makes sure they give up their enriched uranium, and ensures that they open the Strait of Hormuz. Option B is that their power plants and bridges are going to be destroyed by the U.S. military, the strongest military in the world. And so they have a decision to make. And the president was very clear just before we got off the call. He told me Iran has a decision to make. And the decision is either going to be an off-ramp that saves the lives of the leadership and the infrastructure of the country, or the alternative. And the president told me he is prepared for both options. And again, he is sending his negotiating team for one final.
This is so insane. Yeah, I mean, how do you deal with this? Like, how do you deal with this? How do you deal with a bully? How can you have a normal, sincere conversation with a bully that is choosing to extort you with threats of terrorism? It makes sense that the Iranian calculation here is just to say, fuck it. Then we go back. We go back to war. You have to punch back at that point, and with sufficient force that the bully retreats and thinks twice before ever doing this again, not just to you, but to everybody else. It makes total sense for the IRGC guys to look at the situation and be like, see, we fucking told you there is no negotiating with these guys. Proof deterrence has not been established. I mean, no. Here's the problem. Deterrence has been established. For any normal country, deterrence has been established. The problem is America's not a normal country. Ask the GCC if deterrence has been established. Ask the European allies that have a total of 6 weeks of jet fuel remaining if deterrence has been established. Their calculation is very different.
Effort to try and get this deal across the finish line, but the president was very clear. He told me if they do not sign this deal, the whole country is going to get blown up.
Trey, it's Lucas. Great reporting. Vice President Vance led the negotiations last weekend in Islamabad. He is not going on this trip to Islamabad. Why do you think that is?
It's a great point, and I do want to just read something to you right here. As we are talking, the president has now posted on Truth Social about exactly what he told me during that conversation. He says, in part, Iran decided to fire bullets yesterday in the Strait of Hormuz, a total violation of our ceasefire agreement. Many of them were aimed at a French ship and a freighter from the United Kingdom. The president goes on to say, that wasn't nice, was it? My representatives are going to Islamabad, Pakistan, confirming what he told me on the phone earlier. They will be there tomorrow evening for negotiations. Iran recently announced that they were closing the strait, which is strange because our blockade has already closed it. The president goes on to say in his post, they're helping us without knowing. And they are the ones that lose with the closed passage, $500 million a day. Now, it's a very long post on Truth Social, and we'll pull it up here. But the president later says, no more Mr. Nice Guy. They will come down fast. He's talking about the bridges and power plants. And again, that is what I gathered from my conversation with the president, that he is not playing games here. He is not bluffing. He is going to hammer the Iranian regime if they do not sign on the dotted line. The choice is theirs in the days ahead.
Can you respond to, I know the Truth Social came.
This is not the regime. When you openly admit that the strike targets are bridges, tunnels, and power plants, like you're like the administration is readily admitting that the goal is not to destroy the Iranian regime or their military or anything like that. It's just to do terrorism. I find it so odd that we don't even look at these kinds of statements with like any critical lens whatsoever. Like the president keeps repeatedly saying he's going to do acts of terror over and over again, and a pliant media class doesn't treat that as a threat to do war crimes, a threat to do terror, but instead as a simple negotiations tactic. I don't know where we go from here, you know? I don't know how you feel like you're the good guy in this situation.
Came out and we didn't get an answer to the question of why you think J.D. Vance is not included in this negotiation team.
The short answer is we understand that the vice president is still directly involved in these conversations and consultations. The president just yesterday at the White House held a situational assessment in the Situation Room, gathering top cabinet officials, whether it was the Joint Chiefs Chairman, the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, the vice president, and others. And we understand that U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff was involved as well in that conversation. And so this is a full court press by the Trump administration. A variety of officials are involved at many different levels. The United States is preparing not just on the diplomatic front, but also on the military front. And as the president has made clear on Truth Social and in our call earlier today, he is prepared for a variety of outcomes. But we are looking at two outcomes here, either a diplomatic solution or military action.
Big decision. Trey Yingst, great reporting out of Tel Aviv. Thank you, Trey.
Sounds like, by the way, that the whole country should be praying right now.
Indeed.
The whole country needs to pray right now for peace, for them to come to the table and this to end.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube. And
in spite of all this optimism that we've been hearing about from our correspondents from Donald Trump, an Iranian source has told Al Jazeera that Tehran believes the two sides are in fact on the verge of escalation. The source said there is inconsistency in Trump's statements and with what is actually happening on the ground. Let's head to Tehran now, to Ali Hashim. Ali, so that, of course, is a completely different take from that of Donald Trump in the United States.
A lot of skepticism here in Tehran with respect to this sudden announcement by President Trump, especially that both sides weren't yet able to agree on the most crucial points, which are the enrichment of uranium, whether this is going to happen, it's going to be halted for a certain amount of years or indefinitely, or the other issue, which is the fate of the highly enriched uranium stockpile, 480 kilograms that are in one of Iran's destroyed nuclear facilities. So these main points were not agreed upon. The other issue, which is, or at least there is no agreement in principle on what they are going to discuss. The other issue, which is also very important to the Iranians, and this is why Tasnim news agency said that Iran is not sending a delegation to Pakistan unless the blockade on the strait and the blockade on the Iranian ports is lifted. So now what we are hearing is that the Pakistanis are trying to mediate a kind of goodwill de-escalation measure, whereas the United States will loosen its blockade on the Iranian ports, while Iran also will loosen its blockade to the Strait of Hormuz. So what we are dealing with right now is very complicated. The Iranian foreign minister and the Pakistani foreign minister had a phone call. Most probably the Pakistani foreign minister was inviting the Iranian foreign minister to attend alongside his team of experts and diplomats the next round of negotiations. Now, the main issue here that the Iranians could be very concerned of is that the meetings that could happen in Islamabad in the coming days could end up with announcing a kind of an agreement similar to the one that took place in Gaza, the one on Gaza, with no strict points, and leaving the main unbridgeable, at least for now, or the main points of collision between both sides, such as the enrichment and the highly enriched uranium, till later. And also, and this is actually the most sensitive thing for the Iranians, and delaying the lifting of sanctions till later. So to Iran, this would mean an unended conflict, because still they will be paying the price of the situation. They will be under economic sanctions. And the only thing that would happen is that President Trump would take a deal, but an empty deal.
Ali, Iran's posture is certainly one of defiance, isn't it? Taking a defiant tone. But it must be under intense pressure.
Well, there's no doubt there is intense pressure, economic pressure. At the same time, the country here is in a situation of it's not moving. It's just stuck in a situation between no war and no peace. And with a 90 million population, with just a few months ago, a protest that saw thousands killed, with a financial situation very dire. All these issues will, of course, put a lot of pressure on the system, but the system also is fighting what it describes as an imposed war. So it doesn't have much choices. It doesn't have the choice to surrender, and it doesn't have the choice to escalate at the same time.
Ali, thanks for that. Ali Hashem there in the Iranian capital.
The sky has cleared and the bombing has stopped. A sense of calm has filtered through the Iranian capital. But there's little joy in this city. It's difficult to speak to people in Iran. The internet has been cut for the past 6 weeks. But a small number are trying to talk to us. They've managed to post on social media and send messages via the web.
The city is calmer after the news of ceasefire. Young girls without hijab are enjoying their latte macchiato under the sun, while black-veiled women wave their Iranian flag in the government-sponsored rallies at the main squares.
After a bombardment of 40 consecutive days, people in Tehran are emerging from the shadows to drink coffee, to reacquaint with friends. But a shaky ceasefire offers them little or no certainty. City residents have been sending us messages. The Americans and the Israelis trained much of their firepower on the capital, a massive bombardment on a densely populated city. And the experience was captured by a Red Crescent paramedic called Ali. I wish someone would tap me on the shoulder and say, "Get up, it was a dream," he wrote in a message that accompanied this post. And residents have also been documenting the aftermath. This man is the owner of a Persian music school. He then plays this instrument, a kamanche, in the ruins of his own school. It is a small act of defiance that's been repeated in other parts of the city. The authorities claim that tens of thousands of civilian targets in Tehran have been destroyed. Here, professors at Shahid Beheshti University conduct classes outside the remains of an academic building. Far from threatening the regime, the US-Israeli bombing has arguably strengthened it. Here we see giant posters of the girls killed in a strike on a school in the city of Minab, a calamity that has prompted widespread horror. And the regime has sought to harness this outrage in pro-government rallies held nightly, while state media broadcasts messages from unlikely supporters. Women without headscarves, pictured here, backing the country's ultra-conservative leadership. The regime's many critics now find themselves in a difficult position, stuck between a government they loathe and a war that...
How conservative is Iran? You got like 20 to 30% ultra-conservative fundies. And then the rest are not very conservative at all. But ultimately, the rest are not unified behind like an actual political movement either. So on the one hand, yeah, by the way, the conservatives are also very well educated too. Everyone is very well educated. That's the other side of this as well. It's not like the conservatives are like our MAGA, a bunch of fucking mouth-breathing hogs. They're just fundies. Like you see, Americans see those women wearing the burqas, wearing the hijab, and think to themselves like, oh, these must be like backwards people. Like, nah, those are like chemical engineers. You know what I mean? Like, it shouldn't even have to be mentioned, but I feel like I have to remind Americans that when you see a lady dressed like that, you probably have a lot of Orientalist opinions, but like they are in the government, they're a part of the Basij forces, they are petrochemical engineers, and and sometimes even drone manufacturers. Okay?
It's caused immense suffering. For the people of this mega city, the sky itself is a source of fear. That's what 40 days of bombing does. We spoke to a resident called Layla by phone.
I need to use my pills. The drugs and pills in Iran are very, very expensive right now. You can't find fluoxetine, Acentra, citalopram. That's why I think most people are in the same situation as me.
Trapped between war and peace, by the bombs and a government that demands total obedience. It seems the residents of Tehran have nowhere left to go. John Sparks, Sky News.
Well, this is an unusual sight. We're in the middle of Jerusalem, and behind me is a pretty substantial protest, including a whole series of groups that come together to express the hatred of the government. And not just
They still wave the Israeli flags, though.
anti-Netanyahu.
Far less Israeli flags nowadays at those protests than ever before. Okay. Back in the day, all of the anti-Netanyahu crowd, whenever they protested on the streets of Israel, it would be fucking, they'd all be waving the Israeli flag. All of them. Okay. I have noticed a lot less Israeli flags being waved at these protests.
Israel has a track record of starting wars when it doesn't need to.
Israel prides itself as being the only democracy in the region, but these protesters insist their government is malign and say the world can see it.
They see our country already turning into a fascist dictatorship that hates all foreigners, that is ready to kill and go on for an unending war.
I mean, Netanyahu, who would say Israel has been surrounded by enemies and that it has to be strong in defense. You make enemies into allies. You make peace. You do diplomacy. You don't go to war time after time. Our prime minister has sworn that his vision of the future is that we will live forever by the sword. He said that, and I'm not willing to go that direction. Are you proud of being an Israeli at the moment?
No. No.
What is your emotion?
I feel that it's a country that has already gone quite a way towards an authoritarian regime that has committed crimes, so it does not make me proud.
The protest followed by both police and military. There were a few isolated scuffles. In a country where right-wing politicians dominate, many of these people feel their views go unheard.
We must stop these wars. There's endless wars. It's useless. It's only bringing us only disasters. Nothing good comes out of it.
We have to get to a peaceful solution. We have to get to some sort of a political solution. We have to talk to our neighbors. We have to talk to the Palestinians. We have to talk to the Palestinian citizens of Israel. And we definitely have to stop using force to solve everything.
Well, not everyone here is happy about these protests. Those group of people over there have been shouting abuse and jeering, so we're going to go and ask them why.
7. Correspondent 7.
I love seeing fucking hogs in the wild. The hog universality theory remains to be true. Maariv, the Israeli public, which sent its sons and daughters into the line of fire and paid an unimaginable price in blood, sweat, and the destruction of homes, feels that no clear result has been achieved. The feeling is that they pay that the heavy price has been paid in full, but the product, real security, and the removal of the threat has not been provided. This is an erosion of national resilience, a situation in which the public begins to wonder whether its sacrifice has strategic purpose. On the other hand, on the Iranian side and its branches, the logic is completely opposite and discouraging. For the axis of evil, the concept of victory does not require the destruction of the IDF. It only requires the survival of the organization. The mere ability to survive the Israeli blow, to stay on its feet, and to force a powerful country like Israel to sign a ceasefire under the auspices of the superpowers is seen as a great success. This success immediately translates into a sense of victory that fuels the narrative of the resistance. We have defeated the Zionist military machine. This was the case with Hamas. This was what was happening now with Hezbollah. For them, every minute of ceasefire is a minute of reconstruction, strengthening, and planning for the next massacre. This is the colossal mistake of the West, and of Trump in particular. They try to apply the rules of the business world, a world of compromise, profit sharing, and striving for a middle ground, to a region where the game is zero-sum. In the Middle East, today's compromise is tomorrow's missile fuel. While the West seeks stability so that the markets will calm down, Iran seeks existence so that its ideology will prevail. For the Ayatollahs, time is the most precious resource. What a fucking psychotic thing to write, dude. God, like, just average Israeli prose in a Israeli newspaper is just straight up from the mouth of Adolf Hitler. Like, think about it. They're literally saying, like, we have to kill every Iran. Like, we have to destroy Iran. Every moment that we're not destroying Iran, every moment that they exist is a slight against us. Okay? The current ceasefire is not a political solution. It's a strategic recovery period that allows them to fill their depleted warehouses and prepare the infrastructure for the next October 7th, perhaps this time from the north. The ceasefire that was forced upon us is a glaring warning sign. It reminds us that Israel's security cannot rest on international promises or on deals by businessmen, however talented they may be. The responsibility for our fate rests solely on our shoulders. They're pissed off that America was like, bro, please stop murdering children in Lebanon for like a day. What? I think Kai Lentit is roasting you in this video. He is very funny. Their Discord server in the video is called #Pikers. I don't know why you're showing me this. I don't know who this guy is. But in any case, let's continue. I mean, I didn't invent monitoring the situation. I was actually making a meme about people who say that, but it's become a reality now. Yeah, they're literally mad. They're mad that, like, oh, okay, the bomb stopped dropping on us, but also at the same time, like, we haven't murdered every Lebanese person in the South. So obviously, like, what is all this for? Like, we should be fucking, slaughtering the Lebanese population of southern Lebanon. We need more death. We need more violence. We need more destruction. It is so strange.
I think it's, as you say, the ceasefire, and probably will proceed it within, the next couple of months, weeks. Nobody knows. Hopefully the next time we'll continue to move forward, and eventually peace will come in this area. I don't know when, but it will come.
I will answer you in the press. We were so close, but there were some differences over important issues, which United States actually decided not to abandon its maximalist position. So that was the reason that we decided to first finalize this framework and then move on to in-person meetings, I can say. So this is why that Field Marshal Asim Munir was in Tehran from Wednesday evening until Friday, and there were plenty of messages and meetings back and forth happened, and also texts was exchanged. We are still not there yet to move on to an actual meeting, because there are issues that Americans yet have not abandoned their maximalist positions. I can tell you that Iran has no option just to stop aggressors and once forever. We are defending. This was not our choice. This war was not our choice. It was unnecessary, unprovoked war of aggression. It started by Americans and Israelis in the middle of negotiation. And while they were just, conspiring behind the scene that, negotiations work well, and they were promising that there have been good and significant progress, then they started surprise assassinations. They assassinated the head of state, martyred standing our leader in his office, and off-duty commanders, not in Situation Room, not in front line, but also in their offices. So this shows to what extent we have to be very careful and being ready for any scenario.
این به معنی این نیست که ما در قدرت نظامی از آمریکا قوی تریم. یه وقتی من
was Biden. My man pulling up Biden quotes. They said Israel is the gendarme, the military police of the United States in the region.
ما در این حتما تجهیزات و امکانات و پول در جنگ و در پیروزی مؤثره، ولی همیشه اتفاق نمیفته. ما در یک
When did Sean Connery show up? It's so funny that you guys are saying that because they used to say that about Khomeini as well. Not Khamenei, but Ayatollah Khomeini. They used to say also looks like Sean Connery. New, Iran's Khatam al-Anbiya central headquarters says it will soon respond after confirming a U.S. strike on an Iranian commercial vessel and boarding of the ship by American Marines, according to IRGC-linked Fars News. The command accused the U.S. of violating the ceasefire and carrying out armed maritime piracy, saying American forces opened fire on a vessel in the Gulf of Oman, disabled its navigation system, and then deployed a number of its terrorist Marines onto the deck. It said Iran's armed forces will respond and retaliate for what it described as an act of banditry and aggression by the U.S. military. They already did? Ceasefire is over? Wait, isn't this literally from... They did already? They sent drones. Galibaf is back to posting. Vibe trading digital oil is like vibe hedging in treasuries during Hormuz risk off. Both share one house of cards that works on paper. Difference: oil at least has dated Brent. Treasuries, vibes all the way down. Yeah, you know the war efforts have restarted because they're memeing again. They're posting aggressively again. I had noticed a lack of posts, and the posts are back. Iran state-run Tasnim news agency, which is affiliated with the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, is claiming that the Iranian forces attacked some American military ships with drones in response to today's U.S. attack on the Iranian-flagged Tuska in the Gulf of Oman. The self-proclaimed greatest military force in the world became the leader of the pirates. American terrorist military forces attacked an Iranian container ship named Tuska, which was traveling from China to Iran, in the Gulf of Oman a few hours ago. After the Americans attacked the ship, Iranian forces have also attacked some American military ships with drones. Oh, it wasn't even leaving the Strait of Hormuz. It was coming back. God, that is so cowardly. That is so... They couldn't hit a ship that was transiting through the Strait of Hormuz going to China, so they hit an empty ship instead that was coming back from China. Oh my God, we really are paper tigers. I swear to God. After the Americans attacked the ship, Iranian forces also attacked some American military ships with drones. Trump claimed a few hours ago that American terrorists have seized the ship. Iran had previously announced that it would retaliate against any American actions. They're afraid the Chinese are sending weapons. It could be. That could be the case. Syrians are reporting large number of Israeli aircrafts flying across southern Syria tonight, heading eastwards towards Iran. Oh, shit. Israel was begging for this moment. Like the destruction of the ceasefire conversation. Israel's trying to take Lebanon offshore gas dream. Israel moves to take control over Lebanon's offshore gas dream. Researcher Ahmed Baidoun says Israel's newly declared forward defense zone in southern Lebanon effectively folds the Qana gas field into its control, despite Lebanon's rights under the 2022 U.S. brokered maritime deal. Oh my God. Would you look at that? I mean, it's positively anti-Semitic, really, if you don't let them have it. I mean, it's just sitting there. It's sitting there waiting to be taken over by Israeli hands. What, do you not want the only Jewish state in the world to have additional gas fields? Like, I would never. It's positively anti-Semitic. Mike Huckabee said it's okay.
Here's my take.
How Trump's Iran approach is quietly fueling China's rise, says Fareed Zakaria. Let's take a look.
Something puzzling is happening on the world stage. The United States has been infuriating much of the world by being reckless, erratic, and lawless, launching
It was promised to Israel 3,000 years ago. It's in the Bible. The Bible said so. Do you hate every Jewish person on the planet?
Lateral military actions, roiling the global economy, upending alliances, and treating long-held norms as inconveniences. And yet China, the world's rising superpower, has not piled on with thunderous denunciations and proclaimed itself the responsible alternative to an unreliable America. Understanding why will help us better grasp Beijing's long game. I spent the last week in China and was struck by how many people there felt differently about this latest American war in the Middle East compared to the last major one. During the Iraq War, Chinese strategists seemed almost gleeful at the spectacle of America mired in the desert. This time, officials, think tank scholars, and business leaders were mostly bewildered by America's chaotic policy, worried about it, and deeply uncertain about what Trump might do next. Some of this is self-interest. China needs the oil and gas that pass through the Strait of Hormuz. More broadly, the country is not a rogue state like Russia. It understands that its growth depends on open sea lanes, functioning markets, and steady rules of the game. Chinese officials repeatedly told me, echoing Xi Jinping, that the...
I'm sorry. Calling Russia a rogue state is fine, right? But we are also a rogue state. America and Israel are both rogue states here. Like, by those standards, there are two countries here that are invested in stability, regional stability and international stability. Iran is still playing by the rules. So is China. I think it's fair to call Russia a rogue state, but you got to also recognize that we are the rogue state.
The United States was taking the world back to the law of the jungle. It's less a moral critique than a strategic anxiety. In a globalized world, when the reigning hegemon becomes utterly unpredictable, it's bad for everyone.
Can you define rogue state for us? Yes, a state that behaves in a roguelike manner outside of the confines of international law. A state that says all of the international stability that was designed is for nothing. A state that just casts it all aside and engages in might makes right politics.
Chinese officials claim their country does not want to replace the United States. Its business leaders insisted that America remains the more innovative economy, even though America has soured on China.
For the record, America doing this makes even less sense. Because we wrote international law, and the framework that we have operated off of around the globe, that China operates off of, that every other country operates off of, is a framework that we designed that benefits us tremendously. So we're just fucking up the bag for ourselves for no real reason other than to abide by Israel's wishes.
China, those leaders continue to admire Silicon Valley, America's great universities, and the scale and sophistication of the U.S. market. China's strategy is to use this crisis to build its economic strength and global influence. China is doubling down on the frontier technologies that it believes will define the next era of growth: green energy, robotics, artificial intelligence applied to real industries, advanced manufacturing, and services. Its dominance in some of these sectors is already staggering. It produces 80% of the world's solar panels, about 60% of the wind turbines, and 75% of the batteries. It supplies 70% of all electric vehicles on the planet. China has used the last 3 economic shocks to further its dominance. During the pandemic, Chinese firms surged to supply much of the world with medical equipment. As the artificial intelligence boom swelled, China became central to its physical build-out. The metals, electrical equipment, batteries, cooling systems, and industrial components needed for data centers. Now the Iran war has produced a global scramble for new energy. Here again, China.
Iran is 2 days away from making a nuke. Only way to stop them is to subscribe with Twitch Prime, or depending on your associations, the only way to accelerate the process is by subscribing with a Twitch Prime for free or for $6, or gift subs to others. The Piker Broadcasting Service, as always, is sponsored by you, the people, for you, the people. It's the people's news. the People's Broadcasting Service, PBS, Piker Broadcasting Service, for tomorrow's news today. Trita was on CNN. Oh, shit. Nice. After we're done with Fareed's take, we'll do it. Rug pull the banks. Thank you for the 10 gifted subs. 20 gifted subs, as a matter of fact. Thank you. 30 gifted subs. Holy shit.
China is the indispensable power. It dominates the green technologies, solar, wind, batteries, electric vehicles that countries will need to reduce dependence on imported oil and gas.
I saw this.
Beijing turns these industrial strengths into influence. It offers financing, infrastructure, and supply chains. It locks countries.
Balua Jr. Hype train just started. Balua Jr., thank you for the 10 gifted.
It shows governments that America brings volatility while China brings equipment, credit, and continuity. From 2000 to 2025, Beijing financed projects and ports in 90 countries around the world. Last month, Beijing even offered Taiwan a deal of sorts. Accept peaceful reunification, and the mainland will guarantee your energy security. China's next expansion of influence is crucial. Xi recently made explicit Beijing's ambition to turn the renminbi into a global reserve currency. One former official explained how China would steadily expand its bond market and financial infrastructure so that if investors came to see America as risky, they would have an alternative. Recent weeks have brought an obscure but ominous sign. Institutions like the World Bank and the European Investment Bank have been able to issue debt at rates essentially as low as those offered by U.S. Treasuries. This threatens to end what has been called America's exorbitant privilege of having the world's reserve currency. If that erodes, America will get a very painful shock when its government and its households can no longer borrow so much so cheaply. China is using this moment to burnish its reputation, but mostly to build its power. If the correlation of forces moves steadily in its favor, if America continues to squander its global influence, one day Beijing might decide that, after all, it does want to take on the mantle of the world's leading power. And at that point, it will be too late for Washington to do anything about it. On Friday, Iran announced...
America is bouldering in that direction. We are doing seemingly everything in our power to forcibly redesign society in this way. I think we have forced China's hand. I think that China, if left to his own devices, would not want to become the hegemon now. But we are basically causing China to take over this responsibility.
It was reopening the Strait of Hormuz. But on Saturday, it said the strait was closing again due to breaches of trust by the United States. Just hours ago, President Trump responded with fury on his Truth Social account, calling it a total violation of our ceasefire agreement. He also said that a U.S. delegation will be in Pakistan tomorrow evening for a second round of negotiations, and said that if Iran does not accept a deal, then the United States is going to knock out every single power plant and every single bridge in Iran. Now there are only 3 days left before the U.S.-Iran ceasefire is set to end. An Iran's top negotiator says the U.S. and Iran are still far from a final agreement. Joining me now is Vali Nasser. He is a professor of international affairs and Middle Eastern studies at Johns Hopkins University, and has author of an important book, The Grand Strategy of Iran, which in many ways, I would argue, predicts a lot about what has happened. Why is Iran being so intransigent in the face of these extraordinary threats that Trump has made?
I mean, first of all, Iran thinks that through the 40 days war, they did make some strategic gains that they want to consolidate. And they also think that they can actually get a final deal with President Trump if they stand their ground. But the most important thing here is an issue of trust. I think in Islamabad, the opportunity was for the two sides to build trust that then would allow them to resolve things. But after the talks ended, I think trust has actually collapsed even further between Iran saying it will open the straits, the United States not lifting the blockade, and then President Trump issuing a series of tweets that the Iranians say were false. And
it is pretty interesting that after 52 fucking days, almost all of these guys who in the beginning they were like, oh, Iran fucked up big time now, have been retreating back into this much more restrained approach to American foreign policy. I find that to be rather odd. 52 days ago, everybody was like, oh, that you done did it now, Iran. You done did it now. We're going to destroy your fucking stockpiles. We're going to fuck you guys up. I'm not saying Vali Nasser was one of those people. I'm talking about Fareed Zakaria and numerous others.
Portrays an image like Iran has already surrendered even before there's a final deal. So I think what we see as Iranian intransigence is also...
Why does Trump focus on bridges? Because he can't do anything about the missile silos. He can't do anything about the missile cities. So he has to keep punishing the civilian population. It's a very Israeli style of waging war. It's what you do when you're weak.
Iran's deep distrust that this is all a ruse, that like what it happened in Geneva, the U.S. is setting them up for something bigger to come.
The Geneva point is important because my understanding is the Iranians thought they were negotiating in good faith in Geneva, and in the middle of it, Trump starts the war. And so there is specifically a lot of lack of trust with the two negotiators, Witkoff and Kushner, correct?
Yes, those two in particular, and especially in Geneva, the last round, because Iran did put forward very new things that it hadn't done before. It went much farther than it had gone before. And what it got instead was bombing. In other words, it's not like the U.S. said, okay, these are great concessions. I want you to concede even more, and I'm going to be tougher until you concede. It just went straight to war. And it had done this once before. When a war happened in June, they were also in the middle of negotiations.
With Witkoff and Kushner.
With Witkoff and Kushner. So the Iranians are extremely suspicious that maybe this whole Islamabad exercise is theater as the United States builds its forces in the region, sort of learns the lessons of the first 40 days, and Trump may go back to war again. So, and also this whole talk about Iran has made concessions is a way of actually creating confusion in Tehran and breaking ranks within Iran.
My own view on that is that Trump is just talking down the stock market. He knows that every time he says things like, we're close to a deal, they've surrendered, the stock market doesn't collapse, which is one of his goals. Is there new leadership in Iran and how to think about that issue of these new people? Are they divided? Are they, are they more hardline?
There is I believe there is a cohesive leadership. In other words, the top 4 or 5 people are all have known each other, have worked together, are from the same ilk in Iran. They are all Mujtaba Khamenei's people, and he included. So it's not like you have a coalition at the top. You have the same ilk there. They're much more hawkish leaders in Iran. They are not restrained in waging aggressive war. But they've also shown that they are willing to lean into negotiations and diplomacy as well.
What does a more hardline mean?
Means that they are willing to take actions that perhaps...
Oil futures, for your information, are up $5 to $6 currently. Dude, make it more expensive. Make it more expensive. What am I going to do? I'm just going to grind fucking harder, baby. Make the price of an oil barrel go up to $200. Guess what? I'm just going to fucking Sigma on my grind set. I'm on my Sigma grind set shit. You don't understand, bro. You don't understand. Make that shit 150. Fuck it. 200, baby. I'll be out there grinding extra hard. Okay? Fuck it. Make it $300 a barrel. I'll be working that hard. Okay? I'll be working 3 times as hard, baby. Make it $250 for America's birthday. Fuck it. Says the dude with an electric car. Shut the fuck up, broski. Okay, calm down. I do have an electric vehicle. But that's not the point. The point is, I'm grinding. I'm grinding super fucking hard, dude. Because that's a small price that we're all willing to pay, right? As long as Israel gets his war goals across, right? I mean, the alternative is what? Being called an anti-Semite. I mean, I would never. I would hate that. Okay? Yeah, sure. Maybe you're paying 50 extra bucks when you're buying groceries. Sure, maybe there will be some shortages. Maybe you can't go on that fucking trip because now jet fuel costs have also skyrocketed. But real patriots grind. And when you're grinding extra hard, when you're doing additional laps on the Uber, when you were, working a second gig economy job, remind yourself that you are going through this process for the greatest nation on the planet. Not the United States of America, of course. That's the second greatest nation on the planet. The number one nation on the planet, Israel. Okay? So just remind yourself when you're putting in the laps, okay? When you're working hard, not hardly working, but working hard to make ends meet, remind yourself that you're doing this for a higher fucking purpose. Just tell yourself, Am Israel Chai. This is a self-soothing mantra for all the champions, for all the patriots around the world. Okay? Ben Rhodes, markets absurdly disconnected from the vast majority of people. Traders place bets on currencies and oil prices while people pay more for everything and fear losing jobs to the AI that sustains the markets. Again, Ben Hamas Rhodes, not appreciative enough of Israel's military goals, which is the death and destruction of a country with thousands of years of history, culture, and also 93 million people. Ben Hamas Rhodes doesn't appreciate that. We do. Here at the Hasanabi broadcast, we appreciate the finer things in life, like the nation state of Israel, chocolate hummus made by Sabra, and pizza, which was also invented by Israel. That's right, tacos, another Israeli invention. I wake up every morning and I thank God. I thank God. Benjamin Netanyahu, that's who my God is. I thank him. I have an altar dedicated to him, and I think to myself, thank you for existing. Thank you for doing all the best things. I will work extra hard this month to make ends meet. And you should too.
Perhaps the previous supreme leader was...
I think to myself, Israel, tiny nation, size of New Jersey. And I think maybe it should be the size of New Jersey plus, I don't know, maybe Pennsylvania, right? I mean, Israel, tiny nation, size of New Jersey. It's too tiny. It should be larger. That's what I think to myself.
Not willing to take. For instance, attacking Iran's neighbors in the way they have done. Be willing to escalate with the United States. And as one of the advisors to Mojtaba Khamenei said, it's not an eye for an eye. It's an eye, a head, a hand, a neck. As we sort of, if you provoke, we'll provoke even further. And so this is a very different approach than the previous supreme leader who responded to an American attack on Iran's nuclear facilities with a symbolic sending of missiles into Qatar. But at the same time, I think they've been willing to go further than perhaps the previous supreme leader was willing to go in terms of negotiating with the U.S. But domestically, the factions in Iran are still the same. The regime still has to manage its base, has to manage public opinion in Iran. It has asked Iranians, in particular its own people, to sacrifice enormously for this war. So when President Trump says, oh, Iran has already given up everything, even before there's a signature, it actually creates a crisis for them about how do they manage perceptions within Iran, which is quite significant.
We're joined now by Democratic Congressman Roque.
What's really funny about this is that while we're having this conversation, here's what the European allies are apparently worried about, according to Reuters. European allies fear an inexperienced U.S. negotiating team is pushing for a swift headline-grabbing framework deal that with Iran that could entrench rather than resolve deeper problems, diplomats with past experience dealing with Tehran said. They worry Washington, eager to claim a diplomatic win for President Donald Trump, could lock in a superficial agreement on Iran's nuclear program and sanctions relief, then struggle through months or years of technically complex follow-on talks. The concern isn't that there won't be an agreement, said a senior European diplomat, one of 8 who spoke to Reuters, who have previously worked on nuclear file or continue to do so. It's that there will be a bad initial agreement that creates endless downstream problems. European cucks are out here being like, oh, the agreement will be too sweet for Iran. That's what we are worried about here. That they'll deliver something for Iran that's too good, and we don't want that. It's like, okay, man, well, enjoy fucking $7 million barrels of oil. Okay, fuck it. Like, what am I supposed to say to this? When I hear stuff like this, and I don't think this is like the perspective shared by many in Europe, okay? But like, when I hear anyone that is involved in any way, shape, or form within the EU bureaucracy, the bureaucratic structure that still operates as some of the most loyal servants of America and therefore Israel, I think to myself, your people should depose of you. Like, your people should you know, tar and feather your ass. What the fuck are you saying? It's unbelievable. None of them asked for this. You are refusing to see the worst outcomes here for some fucking weird reason. It's just like, this is pure madness, dude. You only arrive at positions like this if you if you're just like an insane person. Your primary focus here is just America and Israel's goals, like achieving those goals no matter who suffers as a consequence. European natural gas futures surging in early Asian trading. European gas rises as much as 9.8%. Benchmark futures rose as much as 11%. Brent oil jumps 7.3% to 96.94 per barrel. We're going to go across the $100 line again. It reminds me of the people that always say, that are American, but many of them are also NATO enjoyers on the timeline that live in European countries, that always say, oh, the Houthis are going to find out why we don't have healthcare. It's like, bitch, you live in France. What the fuck do you mean? You already have healthcare. You're LARPing as an American who doesn't have healthcare. Okay? That's unbelievable. That's number one. Okay? Number two, if you're an American who's saying like, oh, you're going to find out why we don't have healthcare, like, dude, you don't have healthcare. Shouldn't you be more mad about that? Who gives a fuck if we're able to like militarily dominate the Houthis, which ironically enough, we are, turns out, not capable of doing that anyway. And we're certainly not capable of doing that to the IRGC, as we found out in Operation Epstein's epic Fortnite fail. So what are we doing this for? I just don't understand it. It's an exercise in futility, an exercise in belligerence. It makes no damn sense.
Damn, this guy's good.